Mexico is going to be your Clash Royale champion. Takes it. Sergio Ramos wins.
Huge. And nothing to stop the Hog Rider. It's going to get swing on the tombstone. That's it. Nobody's the first ever CRL World Champions. And there you have it. The fire goes up. It's a golden this time. 293. Nothing to do with it yet. Team Liquid is going to be your CRL champion.
Team Liquid is done in surgical go.
117 HP remaining. EQ trying to make room. Team Queso completes the reverse sweep, and they are your 2020 Clash Royale League World Champions. Springtime always brings changes, and of course this spring brought us a brand new meta and new players here for our monthly final. Will we have one of the greatest of all time getting that top place finally, or will we have a complete unknown unseat a great and run the absolute table? You have to watch to find out. Hello and welcome. I'm Rich Slayton, joining me as always my good friend Andrew Guy for what is once again a completely stacked monthly final, Andrew.
Of course, man. It's CRL. That's what it's all about. 8 of the best players from all around the world here to battle it out for over $50,000 this month. And as you said, we just saw him there in the intro. Some of the best players in the world. Morten, probably the guy that everyone is looking out for, our #1 seed. But looking to make some Cinderella stories out there. Maybe Ta or Dark Angel come out on top. We're going to get into all that in just a minute. But first, let's take a look at the journey so far.
Clash Royale League 2021 is here, and this year, it's every player for themselves in an all-out free-for-all duel for the throne. It all begins with the Trophy Race, a monthly event where everyone, and we mean everyone, faces off and battles their way to the top of the monthly leaderboard. Millions of players will compete, but only the top 1,000 move on to the monthly qualifiers. The 8 competitors that conquer the competition advance to the monthly finals, where the only thing left to do is prove that you're the best of the best. The winner goes home with a royal amount of cash prizes and competitive points. After 8 rounds of non-stop Clash Royale action, the top 24 players from the competitive leaderboard will automatically qualify for the World Finals. Fell just short of making it? Don't worry, it's not over yet. The top remaining players on the leaderboard who just missed out on qualifying will be invited to a last chance qualifier for a shot at 8 remaining World Finals spots. In the end, the finalists will duke it out for their share of the prize pool. Clash Royale League 2021 will determine who's got what it takes to sit on the throne and reign as the world champion.
As always, it's a tall order to become a world champion, but of course this season it's open to anyone, and of course that means you watching right now. Yeah, you can go push that top 1,000 ladder and maybe be here next month with myself and Andrew and Josh and Eric as we call your action. And Andrew, we talked about the metas shifting, obviously, the first balance changes in months.
Yeah.
We thought we had this dual format figured out, but walk us through that dual format because it might be kind of wild this time around.
Yeah, a lot of changes I'm assuming here this weekend. Dual format for you guys that don't know it. Each player has to bring 4 decks to the competition consisting of 32 unique cards, which means no card can repeat itself in any single deck. Each deck can only be played once per match, and the player must win that best of 3, which means they have to take 2 of those decks all the way to that finish line. That is the dual format, and it is a double elimination bracket that we have here in this tournament structure, which means that your favorite players get 2 chances, 2 lives, 2 opportunities to stay alive inside of this dual format.
Yeah, that double elimination bracket, so important, that extra chance to not get knocked out. And you can see some of our matchups here in the first round. One of the all-time greats, Morten against the unknown Ta, Bob the Rocket, aka CRL de Groot, up against Fartzen from Germany. The Japanese player Rad up against one of the all-time ladder best in Samuel Basoto, and then Sandbox, the young player for Tribe, up against Team Queso Arena Casitos Dark Angel. And of course, if they do lose in that first round, they're not out. You go down to that lower bracket and you have more chances to move on towards that monthly Grand Championship.
That's right. That lower bracket can work its way all the way back up to the Grand Championship, as you just said. And what's the point of that? Money. points, leaderboard, cash. That is what we are all here and what it's all about. This is what the players are fighting for. So after this bracket, they work all the way through. These are the way that they can win the money. $20,000 goes to first place, $10,000 to second, 6 to third, 4 to fourth, and so on and so forth. Money is really great, but Rich, we talked about those world finals, those leaderboard points. That's really, really important because it's great to win every single month. It's great to walk away with the cash, but as you said, it's all about being that world champion.
And that World Championship, $1.6 million overall on the line this season. Some of that coming out every single month, but the big chunk at the end of the year in the World Championship. Let's take a look at our global leaderboard here. And it's going to be interesting today because we are definitely this weekend going to have a new overall leader. You see Mohamed Light and Line, the two current top leaders, not in today. Morten will at minimum get enough points to overtake one of those two. The big question today, the big question this whole weekend, Andrew, is will Samuel Basoto, the ladder god, go on a total run? Because if he wins this weekend, he could be the only person to unseat Morten at the top.
Yeah, Morten and Samuel both making their second appearances here in the CRL Monthly Finals. Morten falling last month to Line. And as you saw in the previous World Finals, they're falling to Queso. And then before that, falling to Liquid. So Morten has had a lot of trouble in these highest pressure situations. But what I love about the monthly qualifiers and the monthly finals is he has a chance every single month to play at the highest level against the best in the world to get ready, again, for those World Finals.
It's going to be a wild one. Of course, you see a lot of big-time names here, but of course, some names you might not know as well getting into the mix.
Yeah.
So that's the fun part about this open format. Of course, this weekend, the name that nobody knows, Ta, out of Japan. We'll see how he fares up against these other 7 big names, but you also have the young rookie Sandbox for Tribe. I mean, very talented, but very young player. And Dark Angel, who's been in and out of CRL in the past. So lots of dark horses today, Andrew, against those big-time names.
Yeah, guys, so now that you're all caught up with us, you know the prize pool, you know the format, you know exactly who's playing today. Let's get into our very first matchup of the day between Morten and Ta. And unfortunately, Rich, I'm going to say goodbye to you for now. I'll bring you back in just a little bit. I'm going to bring on a former champion himself, AC, Joshua AC Sharon. How are you doing today, man? Good morning to you, brother.
Yeah, good morning. I'm doing great. I'm excited for these matchups. You know, Morten, I love to see him in there. I love to see Dark Angel. It's been forever since we've seen him compete. I just can't wait for these games.
So the very first matchup of the day, we have Morten going up against Ta, our number 1 seed going up against our number 8 seed. We've never had a number 8 seed win a set. And of course, as we just talked about, Morten fell into second place last month to Line. How do you feel about this matchup, and what's the best way for Ta to come out on top, being a relative unknown?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to, you know, trying to be as unpredictable as possible while also remaining very, very comfortable. If you're going to beat Morten at the end of the day, you can't really worry about matchups. You just have to understand, hey, if I'm playing my best game, that's all I need to worry about. And if he has confidence, I could see him winning it. Morten, on the other hand, I mean, everything he does is the correct thing. He's the definition of a true pro. Like, he studies the game. He is the game. He's going to play well.
Yeah, the number 1 guy that all of the players, we send out questionnaires every single month to all of our finalists, and he was the number 1 person that everyone was kind of not wanting to match up against. So Ta gonna have to face off against him first. And just a little bit of history for you guys. Our 8th seed has never won a set so far in the CRL Monthly Finals. Richard and Mark, respectively, have neither taken a set in that 8th seed spot. So maybe Ta is the person to change that up today. But it's going to be tough taking one off of Morten here at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, that's such an insane statistic. They're so talented to be able to get there, and then they just can't pull it off. It just shows how talented these number 1 players are for each and every bracket.
Yeah, it is crazy thinking you're in the top 8 in the world, but that 8th spot is radically different from that number 1 spot. So Josh, talking about the new meta, we see the Mother Witch coming out bright and early this morning. How do you feel about the Mother Witch in the meta? She seems to be pretty OP in my opinion.
Yeah, she is extremely solid. One thing I love about it, we are going to see quite a bit of P.E.K.K.A in this meta because of how good she is, because of how good the E-Barbs are. It's going to change the game, change how, you know, these the dual format decks are going to work. And right there, we almost see a nice little tower lock. But yeah, Mother Witch is phenomenal. I think basically Mother Witch alongside E-Barbs are both going to be cards that we are fitting it in one of 3 decks no matter what. I don't think we're going to go many sets. I would assume at most 2 or 3 sets where we don't see a Mother Witch like whatsoever. Like it is very strong.
Yeah, it does feel like a bit of a right now in the meta to not be using any of those cards that are super powerful right now, like the Mother Witch, like the E-Barbs. And as you said, the P.E.K.K.A. really working her way back into the meta right now. We're seeing this P.E.K.K.A. balloon deck from the top of our screen here from Ta, and as we saw earlier, not a connection, but that death damage does come in from the balloon, death damage being nerfed quite a bit in that last update, something that I'm actually pretty happy about.
Yeah, I mean, before you could win off of like 4 or 5 loon chip with the death damage, and then just miner them out. Now you actually have to set up pushes, get the right things. And that's why we're seeing P.E.K.K.A. Loon, because you can no longer go in with a miner chip. And so you have to switch it over to actual beatdown type decks, because otherwise you're just not going to be able to get through.
Nice defensive freeze there coming out for Ta. One of those piggies does get on the tower, the raged up Baby Dragon, to help clean up here. 21-25 to 22-12 at the bottom of your screen. Morten in just a slight lead. We see the P.E.K.K.A. dropped in the back, so we go aggressive Royal Giant at the bridge. I like this play, Josh.
Yeah, I really love it. We are going to see a freeze right here, but then Morten just in a brilliant spot. He's going to be able to get damage with the RG, and then he's just going to be able to reset. That's all Morten is trying to do right now. Just get damage, reset, and just continue that process until he wins the game.
See that high Mother Witch on top of the Ice Wizard actually turns the P.E.K.K.A. around for half a second. Fisherman going to pull that P.E.K.K.A. in close. The Skeleton Dragons have actually been putting in a lot of work for Morten, stopping the balloon connection on the initial push and playing some really, really nice cleanup here defensively throughout this game.
Yeah, but right here, we do see the P.E.K.K.A. Loon push. It just gets so difficult once you have everything barreling down the field. If he can get it off like a really good freeze, we could see a game over kind of situation. Obviously not going to happen right now, but we just need just one chance for Ta to be able to steal a game.
How does Morten stop this push, Josh? That P.E.K.K.A. coming across the bridge, it works its way towards the center of Morten's side of the map. The balloon gets put on the outside there, left-hand side for you guys looking at the screen. He doesn't have a ton of single target DPS, and you saw him work to get that fireball down. What's the goal here to stop this balloon with that Mamba P.E.K.K.A. up front? Yeah,
it's so difficult because, I mean, you have to utilize the Fisherman really well. And if you look at Ta's deck, obviously he doesn't have a lot of low elixir cards, and so it is going to be possible for him to be able to protect, or it is going to be impossible for him to protect his P.E.K.K.A. from getting Fisherman slapped, basically. But yeah, it's going to be very difficult for him to stop these loon pushes. He just needs to continue to cycle. Now that we're in triple elixir, we're going to be able to see him cycle a lot of P.E.K.K.A.s at the bridge, and this is where it gets really intense for Morten.
Yeah, I have no idea how Morten's actually going to get back on offense. It seems like he's just kind of on his back foot defending over and over again. You saw him change up his defense a little bit, trying to get that fireball in early, push the balloon off to the left-hand side, and then get the Skeleton Dragons to come in on top of the balloon. But I think this is too much here. That balloon is going through. The freeze is in. That's tower down. Ta starting off well here in game number 1.
Yeah, brilliant deck choice from Ta. I really love what he was doing. It was obvious that he was very comfortable with it. He understood, hey, like, yes, I'm cycling P.E.K.K.A. in the back, and yes, you're going to be able to RG in the bridge. But look, here's the thing. Once it hits triple elixir, you only have Skeleton Dragons, you only have Mother Witch. I can NATO everything together, the Baby Dragon Splash, the freeze, the zap, everything is coming together for Ta. Brilliant deck choice, brilliant gameplay.
Yeah, you know, you look at that deck that Ta was running, and the P.E.K.K.A. was really the big problem, you know, for Morten to deal with. He just did not have a ton of single target DPS. He had some decent control, and you saw him make some good moves with the skeletons to kind of keep that P.E.K.K.A. at bay. And this was early in the game where it felt like Morten was totally in control, but we get this very, very first balloon connection, and it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, it was just too much for him. I don't know if in those kind of situations, maybe you're supposed to try and go opposite lane, pressure the bridge, opposite. It was just a really tough spot for him, and I don't know if there was really anything he could have done.
One thing that I really, really enjoy about what Ta did in that last game was he was so precise with his freezes. He was okay to use them on defense, and he made sure that when he used them defensively, it wasn't a situation where he was just slowing the troops down and then they were still coming across the bridge. He would get the freeze in time, take everything off the board, and then get a decent counter push back. The control of that game from Ta was just phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, it was exactly what I was saying at the beginning of the game when I was talking about Morten. He did a brilliant job of just resetting every single time. He understood when he was going to have those elixir advantages. Hey, you know, I still have like a 40% health P.E.K.K.A. I can go in with a Loon. It's going to force out Skeleton Dragons plus Fireball plus Skeletons plus Fisherman. And that's like a +5 trade using a P.E.K.K.A. that already got value on defense. And so he would utilize that and then just reset and then just be able to get that push the next time. And instead of a 40% P.E.K.K.A., now you have a 90% P.E.K.K.A. And then that's when it really starts to wear him down.
Yeah, the Mama P.E.K.K.A. was kind of out of the meta for a while. We did see the P.E.K.K.A. Loon deck that Ta is running a little bit in the last meta, but, you know, with how much Mega Knight we're seeing, how much Electro Giant we're seeing, it does make sense to see Mama P.E.K.K.A. firmly back in the meta, and Morten maybe going to bust one out of his own here, looking like he's showing, you know, some cards from Bridge Spam.
Yeah, with the Prince instead, we could be looking at a different variation, still definitely looking like Bridge Spam, and that's going to be a really nice snipe from the Flying Machine to almost take out the Magic Archer.
Yeah, we see that Ewiz come down with the Heal Spirit on top, keeps the Magic Archer and the Electro Wizard alive to get a decent counter push back, but a perfectly timed Mother Witch is going to get 2 piggies on the board, I believe. Yes, there we go.
Yeah, almost brilliant, and almost could have got all 3 of the troops to spawn piggies. Not going to work out for him like that, though. But yeah, Ta is going to be running Royal Hogs, and then I still don't really... I mean, could Morten be running just a full Bridge Spam, no win con, no Fireball? It's interesting to see his deck.
Yeah, Ta ready there with that Mega Knight to drop right on top of the Bandit, expecting Morten to keep going at the bridge. Morten responds here with the Prince, battling it out on his side of the map. And yeah, I'm very curious to see what the last couple of cards are here from Morten. Obviously, one of them most likely going to be a spell, but I don't believe it's Fireball, or else he would have gotten this Flying Machine off the board maybe with that spell earlier.
Yeah, very true, very true. And then I think we are also going to see E-Bars from Ta as well. This is looking like it's going to be the E-Bars Fireball Royal Hogs deck. And yeah, there we go. We are going to see him.
So E-Barb's coming out here for Morten. Going to be good cleanup here at the bottom of your screen. A little bit of damage in from those piggies, but nothing substantial. E-Barbs plus Magic Archer working themselves down that right-hand lane.
Nice little bar barrel taking out the Magic Archer as well. Just really good timing right there to be able to take everything out that he wanted. He only cared about the Heal Spirit. And there we go. We do see the E-Barbs coming out from Ta. Yeah, Morten not running a win con is what it appears to be. That's an interesting deck. I like that for Morten because it's obviously showing, hey, I have a lot of confidence. I'm trying, like, I believe that I can just outplay. But those kind of decks are so scary because it can put you in such poor positions if you don't get the right matchup.
Yeah, that's a really great point that you make there, Josh. You know, especially not having the right matchup, but late game, right? If you don't have a win con late game, you can have a really, really difficult time getting on top of tower, especially if you're in triple elixir. And you look at this deck that Ta is running, he has a lot of control and a lot of damage and a lot of HP when you talk about that Mega Knight plus the E-Barb. So Morten could have put himself in trouble here. We see that 8th card finally coming out. It is a zap, and it's going to be all about overwhelming here for Morten. Matchup, though, I don't think it's really in his favor.
Yeah, I mean, as the game goes further and further along, Bridge Spam without a big spell, without a win condition, it almost feels like if you don't get it within the first within the first 4 minutes, it's so difficult because with the fact that he has Mother Witch, he's always spawning things. It's always going to put Morten in weird positions, but also the fact that he has MK and he has E-Bars. He can't go split lane pressure because if he does that, he's just going to be able to just use E-Barbs on defense and then MK on top on the other lane. So it's such a weird position for him to be in.
Yeah, the counter push potential for Ta is just kind of through the roof, and we see Morten finally breaking through, doing what Morten does. Somehow he gets that Bandit plus E-Barb connection on the right-hand side, brings that tower well below 1,000 HP, and meanwhile we're spending all this time talking about how could it possibly be done. Morten is showing us exactly how to do it.
Yeah, really impressed with how he set that up. He just understood elixir management, and he did a brilliant job of you know, using the advantage whenever he had it.
Yeah, Bandit up high, gets that dash in on top of the barb, I believe it was, gets the dash on the tower, it helps tank for that E-Barb, and all of a sudden this game swings really heavily in Morten's favor. Morten not really able to use that Magic Archer as an offensive tool, though. He's having to use it a lot more defensively this game.
Yeah, and right there, that's going to be a panic push right there. Not getting the value he's looking for the Royal Hogs. And this is going to be extremely difficult. He has everything going down the left lane. Heal Spirit coming down as well. really well played from Morton right there.
Yeah, you see Ta call out the good game, and it was a really interesting thing. It almost felt like Ta just found himself in an odd position, and he tried to make things happen, as opposed to what we were talking about. He had a lot of great tools in his deck to kind of sit back, let Morton put together these offenses, defend really efficiently, and then get a great counter push going. Where do you think it went wrong for Ta in that game, Josh?
I think it comes down to he just didn't defend optimally. I think there was a few things that he probably should have done a little bit better, maybe space out troops a little bit more. I think he probably obviously recognized that he only had a zap, but the fact that it was the Prince, I think the Prince was a huge change in that deck, because that single targeting DPS troop right there with the Prince and how healthy it is, it just got so much value every time it was placed on the field.
Yeah, Morton did a great job making sure that Prince was always allocated to the Mega Knight, getting that charge in, bringing that health down, and making sure that he didn't have to deal with that big tanky card for too long on his side of the map. And, you know, this is very traditional for Morton. You'll find himself in a tough matchup or being down a little bit, and all of a sudden you watch the next couple minutes and he's somehow not only in the lead, but has taken the tower. Ta, though, doing a great job in this game. We find ourselves at 1-1. I'm trying to think about what to look forward here to in game number 3. Morton's favorite win condition is the minor, and he does love to control. Do you think he goes comfort here?
Yeah, I definitely could see that. I think I mean, we saw it in the earlier, or we saw it in game number 2. He just feels so confident. It doesn't really, he doesn't need to worry about what Ta's doing. He just needs to worry about himself. Yeah. And then Ta, he's already used MK. He's already used E-Barbs. He's already used P.E.K.K.A. He's in such an odd spot. We definitely could see him go the E-Giant route. He is known for using that. But yeah, I definitely think that Morton is going to go. I mean, it's like everything is comfort for Morton. But yeah. I definitely see him using something that he doesn't mind what matchup he gets.
So here we go. Valkyrie and Spear Goblins out for Morton early on. Could be Wall Breakers, could be Mortar, but it's definitely going to be a little bit quick.
And we do see the Musketeer. He did use Magic Archer in the previous game. So that's why I was thinking it could possibly not be Wall Breakers before we got into the game. But yeah, it's... Oh, yeah, we're going to be seeing Graveyard from Morton, likely.
Yeah, and Cannon Cart coming out, a card that, as you can see, is very, very slow now. And I was going to say, we see the E-Wiz, we see the minions, we see the Dark Prince. Dark Prince does get a charge on the tower because that Cannon Cart is so slow. And you have to expect Sparky. It's usually what you see when you see those 3 cards together. You have to kind of assume it's going to be Sparky and probably Goblin Giant. Morton, though, not too happy about this matchup. You see that the Earthquake coming down on top of that Mortar and a little bit of the tilt to the head from the German.
Yeah, we're going to see a ton of value every time the Sparky gets played on the field. He has Snowball for Spear Goblins, he has Earthquake for Mortar, he has Sparky for Cannon Cart, and he has Minions for Graveyard. This is a phenomenal deck choice from Ta. The thing about Graveyard decks is you can easily overwhelm. You can be in such a good spot with Goblin Giant, and then all of a sudden, like, everything gets turned around. But I would definitely be feeling confident if I'm Ta when I get in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see this deck choice from Morton. It seems like this really was a deck that was much more popular in the previous meta, but still very happy to run it here. Apparently, Cannon Cart is tanking for those skeletons. Snowball comes in to give Morton a decent amount of damage, but now down a good amount of elixir, and now we see this Goblin Giant coming across the bridge.
Yeah, that 0 health. No! Wow. I was going to say that 0 health Cannon Cart saved him because the minions are going to walk in front. And instead, the minions are going to stay behind. I guess the shadow of the Goblin Giant was in front of them. And the tower targets out of the Goblin Giant, getting the tower all the way down to 404 HP. Unbelievable.
Oh my gosh, man. That was one of the most unfortunate interactions I have ever seen. You and I both, we had like an actual reaction when we saw that tower shot the Goblin Giant. Those minions staying alive, that is so brutal for Morton. Now, he was down a little bit of elixir. That interaction was so unfortunate. Most likely, we will see our 8th seed take down our #1 seed, but it's Morton. You can never count him out until the tower goes down.
Yeah, look, I'm a huge fan of Morton, but I might be able to count him out already.
I have no idea how he comes back from this. You know that that's just a spell away on the left-hand side. He has to break through a Sparky here on the right, and Ta seems to have dethroned our #1 seed in the 8th spot. An unknown comes into CRL Finals and takes down the German god that is Morton.
Yeah, unbelievable gameplay, just a great matchup and doing exactly what he needs to. Morton got way too aggressive at the very beginning of the game. You saw him go in with that graveyard at 0 elixir. At 5 elixir, but then he had 0 after the graveyard. And then he cleaned it up with the Dark Prince of minions, and it was just too much. It was really too much, and I was kind of surprised to see him make that play.
Yeah, you know, Morton really kind of sold out at the beginning there, which is really untraditional for him. And even on top of that graveyard, Josh, which you called was a bit of an over expenditure, he sends in the snowball. You see right there, the snowball, the last card played, goes in on top of the minions. And just like that, you know, we fast forward a little bit. Morton calls good game. He has no elixir in his tank. He has no HP on his tower. And Ta playing 2 decks, pretty untraditional decks, but I have seen a good amount of Goblin Giant Sparky in this meta. But the P.E.K.K.A. Loon deck with the freeze was the one that felt like it really caught Morton off guard.
Yeah, I love what he was doing. He understood that, hey, if I go cycle against Morton, arguably one of the best, you know, possibly the best cycle player in the world, this is not going to work out for me. So what does he do? He switches over to Beatdown. He switches over to multiple 6+ elixir cards in deck number 2. Obviously, it didn't work out, but, you know, he understands, hey, I'm going to play my own game. I'm going to make him go into me. And then I can try and overwhelm. I can try and do so many things. I can try and get him to overextend and go out of graveyard with 5 elixir, and it works out for him.
So here we go, talking kind of through those decks. This is that first matchup, and the biggest thing here was just Morton could not get enough damage on top of the P.E.K.K.A. to which he could then turn his focus to that balloon. He was caught trying to juggle the two, get enough damage on the P.E.K.K.A., kite it towards the middle, and then focus on the balloon with the Skeleton Dragons and the Fireball. There was just too much going on for Morton to deal with, and obviously he could never get that Royal Giant down because he was on his back foot for so long. Ta cycling those P.E.K.K.A.s in front of that Princess Tower really crippled Morton in game number 1.
Yeah, and just brilliant stuff from Ta right there. Understanding how to play the matchup. Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about him. It was those defensive frees. You don't see defensive freezes enough, and he understood how to play that RG matchup where he can allow the cycled P.E.K.K.A. in the back because he knows that he has Lumberjack freeze that he can do on top of the RGs that are placed at the bridge. And yeah, I really liked what I saw out of Ta.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point you make. P.E.K.K.A. can be cycled in the back because you got a Lumberjack freeze up high. Here we go. Morton coming back in game number 2. Ta goes a little bit more traditional with what's in the meta right now, what's firmly in the meta. You see the Mother Witch there, you see the Piggies, the Mega Knight, and of course the E-Barbs cards that are all very, very highly utilized right now. On the other side of it, we see a very untraditional deck for Morton.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen that deck. I don't know if it got popularized in the dual format games that I missed somehow, but I really like the deck choice from Morton. I think it's a very solid deck overall. I love seeing Heal Spirit back in the meta, as long as, you know, it's not the Heal Spirit of old. And yeah, I really liked that deck choice from Morton. I thought he gave himself a chance to win, and it's something that no one was using before.
So how do you feel about this deck choice from Morton, Josh? As we were kind of talking about through this game, yes, Goblin Giant Sparky seems to be back in the meta, but the deck that Morton ran here was kind of the old meta. Cannon Card's really slow, allows the Dark Prince charge early on, and then the over expenditure in single. But is this deck viable anymore?
It's just so weird. I think it can definitely be useful in a lot of different matchups. But yeah, I don't really like the new update to the cannon card. I don't think it's that strong. I definitely wouldn't be using that.
All right, so let's take a look at our bracket. After our first matchup of the day, obviously we're in the top of our bracket here. Morton and Ta. Ta is going to move forward there, as you can see. Morton going to drop down to our elimination bracket. Next up, we've got Carol, DeGroat, and Schwarzen. I think that's how you're supposed to say it. I don't know. Rich will probably make fun of me later on because he killed it so well in the intro. But Carol DeGroat and Schwarzen. And then we got Rad and Samuel Basoto, Tribe, Sandbox, and Dark Angel to close out our day. A lot of these guys haven't been here in the tournament yet, but every single one of them, now that Ta is out of, or has already gotten his match out of the way, we know these guys very well, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen thousands of games from every single one of them. You know they are battle tested. They are ready to go. Carol DeGroat. Wow, I'm blown away by the pronunciation from you guys. Even if Rich gives you a hard time, I will give you props. And Schwarzen, are going to be playing each other. I mean, they were teammates for Misfits, and it's going to be some fun games right here.
Yeah, it's always fun when you go up against an old teammate, and, you know, Bob the Rock is what we formerly have known him as, now changing his name over to CRL As you can see, he's at the bottom of our screen. Schwarzen at the top here, and very curious to see what these guys have. Miner coming out for the very first time today, met by an Electro Wizard. Maybe we'll see that Sparky deck once again, but obviously only one card out here early.
Yeah, Miner first play, you don't often see that from Bob the Rock. And Schwarzen using what could be Bridge Spam. I will say, I play a lot of GCs every single day. I really enjoy myself when I do that. I probably match up against Schwarzen probably once or twice a day. He grinds. He is going to be so excellent with 1,000 different decks. He is one of the players that you really have to watch out for, especially in this dual format, because you know I can't really prepare for him because he is going to be ready for any possible situation.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty cool thing to think about when you talk about these players that have been incredibly versatile with their deck choices or deck selections, win conditions since day one. The duels format is a really, really great place for them to shine. And bottom of your screen here, Bob the Rock running what is probably my favorite mortar deck in the meta right now. That Royal Delivery is super, super strong, especially when you talk about how much people are running Lava Hound. And of course, it's just a great little thing to have with the shield there, right? You talk about P.E.K.K.A coming back in the meta, the fact that you could distract a P.E.K.K.A for a little while with that delivery, plus the skeletons. Got a good response here, bottom of your screen.
Yeah, no, the Royal Delivery, it just gets so much value, and it's so much weaker than it used to be, but it's getting just as much value as it used to be because people are finally understanding that it's supposed to be used as this block kind of card instead of just this all-powerful card that gets 1,000 elixir worth of value every single time. It is pretty insane how just one day, one person decided to bring it back into the meta, and then everybody agreed, hey, look at this. Maybe we were wrong. Let's actually start using this.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating thing that's always happened in CRL, whether it's East and West or just, you know, people from the same division recognizing, oh man, this card is still really good. We've been underutilizing this for a very long time. And it does feel like Royal Delivery is a card that is really, really excelling in that category. Hunter was a card last meta that felt like had to be in almost every single deck. So here we go. Mega Knight plus Ram Rider plus Inferno Dragon working its way down the left-hand lane. A Lightning going to come in to help clean all that up. Ram Rider going to come on through, but a Log perfectly timed there. Excellent, excellent defense from Bob the Rock.
Yeah, really, really solid defense. Gets the Log just out in time, and this is going to be such an interesting matchup to see how this is going to get played out. Basically, Schwarzen on top. He's going to be cycling MKs in the back. Then he's going to go Ram Rider at the bridge, followed by Lightning on the mortars whenever he possibly can. Bob the Rock on the bottom. He is going to be trying to get aggressive with miners while also cycling Earthquakes. That's going to be likely the card that he's using. And I like this switch. Like, I really, really enjoy the fact that he switched the lanes. He understands, hey, if I'm going same lane as Schwarzen, it is likely that he's going to be able to spam the bridge and he's going to be able to overwhelm. If I split Elixir, it's not going to allow him to get the exact pushes that he wants.
Yeah, and that's exactly what seems to be happening here. You saw the Bandit work its way down that right-hand lane, pretty easily defended. Then the push on the left, not quite as strong as Schwarzen would have liked. And now back on that right-hand tower with the miner is CRL Degroat. Gets a few more shots in, and that Bandit going to do the exact same thing that we just saw. Work its way down the right-hand side. Ram Rider plus here on the left. Log going to come out to stop that charge.
Yeah, and I really like the fact that he only used the Valk. He didn't want to use the mortar because if he uses the mortar, it just gives way too much lightning value. He understands the Valk is going to be his hero in this matchup, and it's going to be something that every time it gets placed on the field, it's probably going to get insane value, whether it be placed on top of the Ram Rider, be placed on top of the MK, the Bandit, the Heal Spirit, anything like that. So he needs to be using that really, really effectively.
So here we go. Mega Knight dropped at the bridge. There's the Valkyrie you're talking about, Josh. Once again, up high to catch that Mega Knight. Now a delivery on top of the Inferno. Musketeer played up high. Going to get on top of everything there. But a Bar Barrel is in. And that Miner is not going to be enough. Valkyrie back around. Brilliant cycle here, but overwhelmed. Finally, we see the mortar come out defensively.
Yeah, tower locking onto the Inferno Dragon, which is huge. But that's going to be a Ram Rider on tower. Not going to get the shot, though, but 800 HP separating the two. Schwarzen doing a brilliant job of just attacking, understanding that he cannot allow Bob the Rock to be able to get the minor poisons off. Really, really like how he has approached this matchup.
Yeah, and there you go. Mortar finally comes out on the right-hand side. That was something I was actually going to ask you about earlier, but we just weren't able to get around to it because I was wondering if he was ever even going to be able to play that Mortar, since he couldn't get it down defensively because of the lightning, and he couldn't get it down offensively because he might need to soak up that Ram Rider. So really, really nice stuff here. And you see bottom of your screen, tower goes down for CRL DeGroat. Really, really, really well played there by Schwarzen. He just let the game come to him.
Yeah, I mean, he just cycled things in the back. He never allowed him to go with offensive mortars. I think, I want to say he did like one offensive mortar within the first 2 minutes, and then he immediately got completely overwhelmed right after, and he realized he could never do that again. And these lightnings were just brilliant every single time. Good Ram Rider timing. It gets the shot, then he goes in with the lightning. He delays it as long as possible to possibly get like another card. I mean, Baltharok did whatever he could. He went in with defensive miners. He went in with royal deliveries that, in theory, should be getting a lot of value. It just wasn't enough.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about how you win that matchup. You know, it seems like it's almost impossible when you talk about trying to get that mortar out offensively. Then your opponent can go heavy at the bridge. And if you do ever play that mortar defensively, like you said, Josh, you're always giving lightning value. Is that just a matchup that's going to go Schwarzen's favor like 80% of the time? Was there anything that Bob the Rock could have done sooner?
Look, he did use the Valk on defense one time, and it was just like a lone Valk and possibly skeletons as well with the log, and he was able to get a positive elixir trade out of it. Yes, he gave up lightning damage, but I think it was like a Ram Rider lightning that came down, and he didn't take any damage except the lightning. I liked when he did that, but it was just too late. I loved that he kept attempting to switch up defenses. He kept attempting to do different things. And I think he kind of started figuring it out, but it was just way too late. He had already given up way too much damage. And he realized, hey, I need to be able to overwhelm, and I'm not going to be able to do that if I keep defending this way. And then it just ended up not being enough.
So game one going to Schwarzen at the top of the screen there. You see that red crown, and of course, we can see a little bit of what's up next and what's already happened on the right-hand side of your screen. Same of Soto and Rad will be the next matchup of the day. And as you can see there, Todd took match number one 2-1 over our number one seed, Morton, coming into the day, who was not yet eliminated. Schwarzen, top of your screen. CRL DeGroat at the bottom.
And CRL DeGroat possibly using Royal Hogs, one of the greatest Royal Hogs players in the game, on the bottom. And then Schwarzen using what looks to be either Graveyard, could be minor, but it's definitely appearing to be Graveyard, especially when we see that Mega Minion come out.
Yeah, Mega Minion coming out. That's going to be a really, really important card when you talk about getting on top of those flying machines here for Schwarzen. Yes, you do want to try to get a poison out on a flying machine, but you know that that Mega Minion is going to be a little bit more of a guaranteed kill.
Yeah, really clean defense up top. He uses the Skellies, he doesn't try and surround the Skellies, or he doesn't try and surround the MK with the Skellies. Wow, this is going to be a very valuable Mother Witch. And then uses the Valk to clean up all the Royal Hogs plus the MK. But look at all those Hogs get spammed.
It's crazy, man. I mean, Graveyard is really struggling in the meta just because of that card right there. You look at that easy cleanup. You look at how it turns into an awesome counter push. The Fireball comes out. You look at Elixir in a very, very good spot. And the tower health, 14, now down to below 1,300 HP at the top of your screen.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see the Mother Witch because, yes, it gets value on defense, but it also gets a lot of sneaky damage on offense right there. I know for a fact Schwarzen definitely thought it was going to be going to the Mega Minion, but no, it locks onto the tower instead. I don't know how it happens. I don't know why it happens, but it seems to always go for the tower in situations where you think it's going to be going for troops. And yeah, just a tough break for Schwarzen.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage early on when you talk about it coming off of something as small as that interaction. So here we go. Mega Knight up high to catch that Valkyrie plus Skeletons, knowing that that Graveyard was most likely coming in. Here's the poison that we're talking about. Skeletons used to keep that flying machine inside of the poison. Again, that's really, really integral. If you're going to drop that poison, you got to make sure that flying machine goes down, or else you're going to have to overspend with the Mega Minion, and then that's probably one of the best ways to lose the game.
Yeah, I really like that defense, using the defensive poison right there to take everything out. But I also like that play on the bottom because it's just allowing him to reset again. And every time he resets, he's in these super good positions. And that's a good poison snowball, but you're not getting that much damage. And you're spending so much elixir. You have the flying machine coming down the field, and you don't have anything to be able to take it out cleanly. This is a very difficult spot for Schwarzen.
Yeah, and see, you see there the Mega Minion gets taken out. Flying Machine still very, very healthy. Now Flying Machine on the tower. Mega Knight still taking for it, and that is going to do it. 230, the big swing comes in. 8 HP remains. Fireball down. We are all tied up at 1. A beautiful sequence there at the end for Bob the Rock.
Yeah, I mean, it was just super simple. He understood the game plan right away. Hey, look, he's going to go in with Graveyard, I defend with Mother Witch, and then I just win. And so he always kept it in cycle for every single Graveyard. There was one time he was able to get around it because he went in with the Valk, or he used his, 3.1 elixir cycle to his advantage. But then what did he do? He just MK'd at the bridge. He stopped everything. He used Zappies on defense for the Graveyard and cleaned it up nicely. There was only one potential scare, and then he didn't worry about it. He just played cleanly.
And this is exactly one of the things that we were mentioning earlier in the game. That Flying Machine coming across the bridge, defended by the Zappies, takes the Mega Minion off the board. And that Flying Machine was the one that ends up connecting on the Princess Tower, getting tanked for by the Mega Knight. Those Flying Machines, I've been casting all week long with Eric, and the Flying Machine has definitely been the one most frustrating card of the entire week of gameplay. And here, once again, in this game, the Flying Machine, when you don't take it off the board, it just inhales your opponent's elixir.
Yeah, it's insane. So what do you do if you don't have Fireball? Hey, look, I'm going to go with one of the greatest single targeting troops in the game with the Mega Minion, and then he still doesn't get any value whatsoever. He always has to use the Mega Minion on top of the pigs that get spawned. He always has to use the Mega Minion on top of the Mother Witch. Every single time he plays down the Flying Machine, he gets 6, 7, 8, 9 plus elixir, and it was just too much for him.
Yeah, you talk about those positive elixir trades with the Flying Machine. There's just no way to come back from that late in the game, especially when you have something like that Mega Knight up front. Big and beefy, just enough damage. He gets that big swing on the tower, bringing it down to 8 HP. So, again, all tied up at 1 here in match number 2 of the day. Bob the Rock and Schwarzen. And we've seen some pretty on-meta decks here in this specific matchup, whereas in the first one, we saw a little bit more versatile stuff there from Ta. Curious to see what we see here in game number 3.
Yeah, I would be shocked if we didn't see a Mother Witch or E-Barbs come out from Schwarzen overall. I know we haven't seen the Mother Witch. I'm trying to think what he used game 1. Oh yeah, he used that Inferno Dragon deck. Yeah. And so, yeah. Oh, and he's gonna use...
Talk to me about this deck. I've seen it a handful of times. I've lost to it. It's infuriating.
Yeah, it's not even fun to play. Like, if I'm Schwarzen, I wouldn't play this because it's just not enjoyable to run. But yeah, you have Double Spawner, you have the E-Barbs, you have the Fireball, and the Flying Machine. It's a really solid deck overall. And these Fire Spirits, they always get a ton of value. Ice Spirit, not necessary. Kind of a mistake, but it's definitely not going to be the end of the world. And yeah, you place down buildings, and then you use E-Barbs to take out whatever troops he's trying to get down the field. It's super simple.
And it's infuriating, and you can see right now it's already working. That Mother Witch on the tower, raged up, gets that down, or not raged up, that was a defensive rage, but gets that down to 15-22, and we've just started. We're only a minute and 15 seconds into gameplay, and down a ton of elixir and down a ton of HP is Karel de Groot.
Yeah, and it's so weird that his win condition, because, I mean, Furnace, while it does get value, it's almost, like, even in these kind of decks, it's almost never the win condition. His win condition is really the pigs that get spawned from the Mother Witch and the Spirit Goblins that come from the Goblin Hut, and that is his only win conditions.
Yeah, and a big part of this deck, which Schwarzen took advantage of there early on, was just kind of recognizing where his opponent was at elixir-wise, and just going, cool, I'm just going to sell out right now with the Mother Witch plus the E-Barbs on the left-hand side and take your tower down to low half health.
And I love that he's using the Ice Spirit. There is a Skeletons version that I believe is more popular. I don't know if he's using the Ice Spirit due to the matchup and the fact that he thinks, hey, I haven't seen Loon from my opponent, or even, hey, Bob the Rock, he is known for being able to utilize Balloon in these kind of situations. But I love the Ice Spirit, and right there we see how much value it gets when he uses the huts on the right or on the left side, but then he still defends cleanly with only taking balloon damage because of the Ice Spirit. It's just, he's in such an optimal position.
Yeah, that little delay there with the Ice Spirit to take the balloon off the board, preventing a massive balloon hit on that right-hand side. That's a great trade there. Obviously, Skeletons would not be able to do that, but It's starting to look like a city on the top of our screen. 2 furnaces up, a goblin hut goes down, but a second one up behind that left-hand princess tower. We're going to see probably some royal recruits. No, only 3 elixir in the hand here of Karel de Groot.
Yeah, I mean, it's so difficult. He's playing it exactly how he needs to, just cycling huts in the back, cycling on the left lane, cycling on the right lane. And yes, he has recruits, and so technically that can take out both lanes just fine. But when it's fire spirits and when it's spirit goblins, it's not the troops that you want your recruits to be targeting, and they just get so much chip. They wear them down super easily. The fly machine, again, we see it being the MVP. It's going to take out the fisherman, and then it's going to take out the archer, and then it's going to take out everything. This is just so difficult for Bob the Rock.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, those fire spirits just working their way down that right-hand side. We've seen a ton of connections bring it down to 844. You saw a heal spirit come out from Karel de Groot, just trying to, you know, hold on to anything. But now spirit goblins get on the tower on the right-hand side, and then an E-barbs come down the left. Heal spirit plus fisherman there to catch, but this is really trouble, Josh. That flying machine on the tower, that's going to do it.
Yeah, brilliant awareness. He goes in with the lumberjack on the right lane, and what does Fazen immediately do? He goes in with the Royal Hogs at the, sorry, not the Royal Hogs, the E-barbs at the bridge. He understands, hey, he spent any amount of elixir. I can go all in. I can win the game.
What is that deck, man? What is that deck? Now that we've seen it at CRL, you know you're going to see it everywhere in Grand Challenges and on Ladder. It seems to really work. Why does it work so well in this meta?
I mean, it has everything to do with the fact you have Mother Witch and you have Fly Machine in the same deck. You have to use the Fireball on one. Hey, wait a second. I also have 2 huts. You have to use the Fireball on 4 different cards. And when you only have 1 Fireball, or you don't even have the Fireball and you only have Snowball, or you only have Lightning, it just puts you in such difficult spots.
And I love playing this deck late in your series, right? Because most likely your opponent has already used their favorite spells. You know, they don't have a great way of getting those buildings off the board. They don't have a great way of getting the buildings off the board and taking that flying machine out of play. So, and a very fascinating deck, as you guys can see, it costs 11 elixir to get all the way around. But the fact that you can bust that out late in a duels format can be a very, very tough matchup.
Yeah, I am blown away at the fact that he was willing to use this. I mean, I was talking about it earlier. He plays what feels like hundreds of games every single day. He is always searching for that best deck, that best matchup, that best whatever possible thing to give him any kind of advantage. He is one of the most dedicated players in the entire game, and that's the reason why he won this set.
So here we go, game number 1. This was all Schwatzen there. You look at the Lightning, you look at the Mega Knight, and you think of that Ram Rider. How on earth is Bob the Rock going to get enough damage on the tower? The mortar can never be used on defense. Got to save it for, can never be used on offense. You have to save it for defense. But when it comes down defensively, that Lightning comes out, and that was definitely the story of this first matchup. Musketeers and mortars getting taken off the board by that Lightning. Schwatzen very, very clean here in game number 1.
Yeah, it was so solid because he never got any musketeer off to the side so then he could play the defensive mortar. Like, it didn't matter what he did. He was always getting lightning value. He was always just barreling down the field, getting positive elixir trades while getting damage, while being able to reset. I mean, it was just insane how well he played that. And then game number 2, it was just the Mother Witch. There was nothing else to it. The Mother Witch just spawned skellies, or spawned little hogs, and the Royal Hogs of his own. He was just doing whatever he wanted in game number 2.
So obviously people are going to continue to play Graveyard, Josh, but do you think it's definitely going to fall down in the meta just because of how good Mother Witch is? But we've already seen people, and I believe in both of our sets so far, just having to rock Graveyard because it was so strong for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to, is Mother Witch out of cycle, and do my opponents know that I'm immediately recognizing that and immediately going into Graveyard? And if you compare those two, and the Mother Witch isn't in cycle, and you know your opponent is thinking, hey, he might use Graveyard or he might not, that's when you can pull it out. Otherwise, I would stay away.
So here we go, game number 3, Furnace and Hut coming out for Schwatzen, making it basically impossible for that balloon to get anywhere, and defending was even harder for Bob the Rock. Royal recruits could never come out, as you were talking about, just giving way too much value to those fire spirits in this furnace. I mean, this was just lost from the beginning, it felt like.
Yeah, I mean, the like he did what he could. He recognized that the furnace and the goblin hut were cycled on the left. Hey, this is my one chance. Let me go in with Lumberloon at the bridge, followed by the heal spirit. I've got it. And then he just defends cleanly with a Mother Witch plus Ice Spirit plus Fly Machine. I could not believe, not necessarily the micro level skill from Schwarzen, but just the ability to use this deck, understand what's like available to Bob the Rock, and then he just defended cleanly.
So here we go, guys. We are halfway through the top of our bracket today. Ta and Schwarzen will be facing off as our 7th matchup of the day. And to figure out what our 8th matchup is, we have to get through a couple more here at the top. Rad and Samuel Basoto, that's coming up next. Then it'll be Tribes Sandbox, followed by Dark Angel. That'll be a great set there, but of course next year we have Rad and Samuel Basoto, and then down at the elimination side of the bracket, we'll take a look at that after this set because it does become a little bit more fully flushed out. This is a very, very interesting set because we have two very experienced players. You know, Rad is a guy that's been in the league for a very long time, whether it was with Fav or with Ponos. And then Samuel Basoto, a ladder god out there. This is going to be a fascinating BO3.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot wait to see what's going to happen. Samuel Basoto, obviously, you know, it's hard to talk about his peak because he is just so consistently solid. Radwimps, on the other hand, like, I mean, you kind of have to say the same thing about him. He's been in, you know, what feels like every single CRL. He's always consistently doing phenomenal in team events and individual events. This is just so exciting to see.
Samuel Basoto, our 5th seed last month. This month, our 3rd seed. And, you know, playing very, very well, as you said. Or, excuse me, our 2nd seed. And bottom of your screen looks like Rad going to be rocking some bait. Top of your screen, no surprise there. Royal Hogs plus Mother Witch plus Zappies.
Yep, and it's going to be a lot of that all weekend. And I like... he uses the aggressive Royal Hogs at the bridge, and then he doesn't worry about, and that's a very aggressive bar barrel right there. You're going against bait and you're going to use it offensively. But he didn't defend the Goblin Barrel because he understood if he does that, then Radwimps is going to be in a spot where he can just do whatever he wants. But this is going to be very tough for him to defend right here.
Yeah, a little surprised, as you just said. He busts out that bar barrel offensively to try to really swing for the fences, and he doesn't get a lot out of it. And then, you know, you turn it around on defense, he doesn't have that bar barrel in cycle for the Goblin Barrel, which you know is going to come in. Obviously, the Mother Witch is going to be a great equalizer here for Samuel Basoto, but not if he's down this much this early on.
Yeah, it's going to be important to see what Radwimp's last card is going to be. It's definitely likely going to be a Tesla. Could be a Bomb Tower. Could be, in theory, you know, NATO or Fireball. But Samuel Basoto does have to pay attention to the fact, hey, my opponent likely does not have a big spell. It's okay that I've given up this much damage. I just need to prepare for the rest of this game to go defensive-minded at first, and then just try and overwhelm as the game goes on.
You see that Flying Machine kind of caught in limbo. A high Inferno Tower has to come out here from Rad to get on top of that. Bar Barrel in cycle 4. The Goblin Barrel, 640 remaining at the top of your screen. Samuel Basoto has a lot of work to do in the next 45 seconds.
Yeah, Samuel just making a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes. You see the Bar Barrel come out on top of the Goblin Barrel, and it's late. That is just not something you see from him. And yeah, I was shocked to see that.
Yeah, you know, Samuel Basoto, he hasn't been shy about it at all on Twitter. He's definitely got some other things on his mind today, but he's here. He's here in competition. He's here in this matchup against Rad and making a lot of mistakes early on from our number 2 seed. Very, very surprising, but here we go. A full send, Josh.
Yeah, but it's just too easy. He has Log, he has Valve, he has Royal Delivery, and when you pair all 3 of those going against Royal Hogs, you know, it is going to be kind of favorable for you.
Yeah, this is a really, really tough game for Samuel. He had that Mother Witch, which would have been absolutely brilliant to use against that Skeleton Barrel. I don't think that interaction happened once. He saw a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel when he had that Flying Machine in an opportune position to get out a little bit more elixir from Rad, but literally there was basically no opening after that crazy Bar Barrel.
Yeah, I just still, I'm very interested to see what his... I mean, obviously your opponent likely isn't going to have Valk, Log, and Royal Delivery, but you have to recognize, hey, I'm going against bait. It's likely, you know, at the very least he has Knight, even though, you know, it did get that nerf, it's still solid. Like, there is no opportunity for offensive bar barrels in any situation usually in that matchup. And right there we saw why, because it's just so easy for him to abuse the fact that he doesn't have the right cycle.
Yeah, and then a fireball has to come out on defense for Samuel. He goes down to 0. His opponent gets an insane amount of damage on the tower and holds on to that elixir lead. So Samuel Basoto loses this game very, very early on with some uncharacteristic mistakes. I have to assume it's because his mind is somewhere else right now, Josh, because those are the types of mistakes that even I'm not going to make.
Yeah, I mean, even at the very end of the game, we saw him mistime the zappies, and he played it too early, and the skeletons just spawned behind. Look, he needs to do whatever he can. Obviously, he's going to be preoccupied, and he's probably giddy about, you know, what's happening around in his life. But yeah, you know, you really need to focus up and make sure that you're really ready to compete.
Yeah, I just would have loved to see even one time that Mother Witch get on top of the skeletons popping from that skeleton barrel, just to see if he could get the Inferno Tower out from his opponent, just have him overspend. We only saw Rad have to overspend one time. And then, you know, the other part of it was that we saw Samuel Basoto just go in the same lane over and over and over. You talked about Valkyrie plus Log plus Royal Delivery. How on earth are you going to put together a real Royal Hogs push when there's that much defense? I mean, should he have split things up? Should he have gone in the opposite lane? Or was it just too much that went wrong early on?
Yeah, I mean, it has everything to do with matchup plus mistakes. I mean, there is no clean answer. It is just everything went wrong for him. And yeah, even his focus levels probably weren't exactly there. Yeah, I mean, I want to see him just try and reset for game number 2. Maybe use something that he's not used to try and, you know, confuse his opponents. I wouldn't mind seeing a beatdown tech from him. He's obviously extremely talented with cycle. That's going to translate into other kind of into other decks as well. And so I wouldn't mind seeing, you know, even like a Sparky deck or something where it's super simple for him to just make the right plays.
So here we go. Rad, bottom of your screen, up a game early on. Yeah, I'd like to see some Sparky maybe out of Samuel Basoto, but instead we see the Bomber come out. One of the few times we've ever seen the Bomber in competition. One of the last times I remember seeing the Bomber in competition was over in WCG when a player from SSG rocked a Bomber Golem deck. Do you remember that, Josh?
Was that me?
Was it? Oh, was that you?
Oh,
it must have been.
I actually didn't know. I didn't know that was me. That's so
that was
cool.
you, man.
Man, I was quite creative.
That's a good word for it. So here we go. Rad getting a good push together on the right-hand side already. Mega Knight pretty healthy. Mother Witch behind. E-Barbs. So much elixir in the tank with a Heal Spirit behind. Great NATO there from Samuel.
Yeah, really solid right there. And right there, the Goblin Cage coming out, and that's going to be taken advantage of because he uses the MK in the same lane, but the MK was jumping. And so because it jumps where it was attempting to jump onto the Ice Wiz, instead it jumps on top of the Brawler, and then it gets so much more value because of that 2 times damage because it was jumping.
1707 down to 1525. Rad untouched basically at the bottom of your screen. Samuel Basoto really needing to bounce back here in game number 2, and he needs to do it right now if he expects to stay in this competition for much longer.
Yeah, I like the deck that Basoto is using as long as it's going to be E-Giant. It technically could still be a Splash Art variant, but I am 95% sure that he's going E-Giant, and I really like that. He is going to be able to NATO everything together once it hits double Elixir. Look, he's taking 1,000 damage, but that's kind of okay with E-Giant decks.
Yeah.
And there we go, we do see it pulled out. Look, he is just trying to set himself up once triple elixir happens. That's especially going to be when it gets crazy, but he might not even need triple elixir.
Wow, I mean, this is a really great push already. Perfectly healthy Ice Wiz plus Dark Prince plus Bomber. A Fireball does come out, but 2 Ice Wizzes crossing the bridge, and honestly, that's not quite the push you want from Basoto, but still gets a lot of damage down. His opponent's hurting for elixir. He's out of cycle, and I think he's set up for another E-Giant.
Yeah, it's so interesting because, you know, he goes in with the offensive Ice Wizard, and that's never what you want to see. But when you're doing that, you're only using Ice Wizard on offense when you're in optimal positions where you can just try and stack the bridge. So it's always just a funny interaction to see that place. And there we go. We do see the offensive NATO pulling everything together. He's never able to use these E-Barbs on top of the E-Giant, and that could be his downfall.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage on the tower. It's insane how quickly that Electro Giant stacks damage up. That's going to be tower down, essentially. 71 HP. There's the lightning coming out from Samuel Basoto. And a radical shift in momentum after one drop of the E-Giant. Honestly, if I have one card that I struggle with the most in the game right now, Josh, it is the Electro Giant. Talk to me a little bit about this card. Talk to me about its dominance and its weak side.
Well, first of all, I want to let you know, I promise you are not alone. Everybody is probably feeling that way. It's the E-Giant and it's the Mother Witch that are just so difficult to just understand how it works conceptually. The E-Giant, I mean, it is just so ultra powerful. If you don't match up against Mortar, you are winning the game. That is basically how it is. Obviously, if you're going against, Inferno Tower decks, yes, it does have the stun, and so if it gets within range, it can get get past those kind of decks, but it is just so difficult to stop if you don't have a building, if you don't have a fisherman. You just can't do anything to it.
The amount of damage that it does to the troops around it, and once it's swinging on the tower, you saw that tower literally just melt on Rad's side of the map, and then you combine that with the NATO as you're talking about. You throw the lightning in there for good measure, and as you said, Josh, if you're not playing Mortar, it basically feels like you lose that matchup. So now things are all even here through 2 games. Samuel Basoto can no longer rock Electro Giant or the Piggies. Rad has a lot more options when you talk about what's firmly dominating in the meta right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It is going to be interesting to see what both players are going to run. I love that Samuel used a heavier type deck, not going in with Cycle. I wonder if he's going to try and do that again. And then Radwimps, obviously, he has a lot of things available. No Mother Witch, though, and no E-Barbs. So it's going to get kind of interesting, kind of dicey for him to make, an exact meta deck. But yeah, I mean, both players are in weird spots right now, actually.
Yeah, I like that you called last game that Samuel Basoto needed to go heavier. He needed to slow things down a little bit, and that's exactly what he did. He played, some lackluster defense in the very beginning, but then, once he was able to get that Electro Giant down, things changed very rapidly, and now we're going to see 2 very different things. Samuel Basoto going to go with something chippy and quick. On the other side of it, Rad from Fav Gaming is going to go to the skies with Lava Hound, most likely going to have the E-Barbs version of this as opposed to the old Barbarian version. Oh, no,
yeah,
he can't. He already used E-Barbs, I believe.
Yes. Regardless of how this matchup works out, I love that he's using this deck. It shows that he has confidence. It shows that he's ready. And that is a brilliant interaction for him. Uses the Miner way too early, and that's going to allow the Musketeer to lock onto the Miner and then go to the Loon instead of the Lava. And that is a huge mistake coming out from Rad.
Yeah, you look at that beautiful, beautiful coverage there on that Musketeer. Skeletons come down to protect. Now a Miner out as well. That Musketeer has lived a very long and full life. You even see Rad having to give a little bit of love to his opponent. That Musketeer was the problem there, and it killed that push right on the vine.
Yeah, so Basoto needs to recognize the matchup right here. Rad, unless he's using some crazy variation, is going to be running Lava Loon Zap arrows. And so he needs to be protecting his Musketeer whenever he can. And then, Rad, he just has to get the right push going. He needs to get the Loon, he needs to get the Miner, he needs to get the arrows. And I like this Valk at the bridge. It's not going to allow Rad to get the optimal placement. And a brilliant use of the Mortar, that's going to allow the tower to lock on to the Loon instead of the Lava.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really great point that you make right there. The balloon goes down in time, and that is a beautiful interaction, Josh. I'm so happy that you're here to break that down, because that was a very, very heads-up mortar that prevents that tower from falling. At least a moment ago, we find ourselves in what most likely is going to be a 2-tower game. Zap comes out, tower's still going to go down with that Zap. Nice play there from Rad. And then a Miner comes out in response from Samuel Basoto. We're going to 2.
Yeah, Basoto in kind of as good a position as you can ask for when you're running this kind of matchup against that kind of deck. He is up HP currently, obviously not in a position where he can feel comfortable, but he's giving himself a chance, and that's going to be one of the most important things you can possibly do. Brilliant use of the Royal Delivery right there, getting a prediction Royal Delivery. You don't see that very often.
That was insane, man. That was absolutely beautiful. We see the Barbs coming out. Samuel recognizing, yep, my opponent already ran the E-Barbs, which means it's going to be the Barbs. He hasn't played them once this game, but this seems like the best place to play him. Gets that Royal Delivery in the pocket to keep his Musketeer alive, but still, that balloon does connect. The Inferno Dragon still living on the side of Samuel's map. This still feels like a very, very rough out for Samuel Basoto.
Yeah, but he's now in a position where he can get aggressive, and that's going to be a Valk on the tower.
That's huge, dude. Miner taking for the Valk. Poison is in. 544 remaining. It looks like he missed the poison on the tower, though. So 544 is where it is at, and now we get a very healthy balloon coming in. Mortar up high to defend. How on earth does he stop this?
Yeah, he's going to go in with a Royal Delivery, and that's going to get it just in time. Oh, my word. I love the barbs right there from Rad. He understands that if he doesn't get the King Tower locked onto the Loon, that could have been a Loon locking onto Tower, and he's in such a weird spot with 1 minute and 34 seconds left. He needs to get really aggressive in these kind of positions, and I mean, this is just two players playing well.
Yeah, this is beautiful gameplay here. We see that mortar up high, Musketeer right on top of the balloon. Miner, though, getting damage in. Musketeer turns right around, bringing that tower down to 453. The overspend there on the log. Samuel starting to maybe panic just a little bit, but time is still left.
Yeah, it's going to be so interesting to see how he wants to do this. Prediction Barbs coming out, but there's a problem with doing Prediction Barbs. Wow.
I don't know how, yeah, that's crazy. I don't know how he defended that.
This is just so stressful. When you have to go in with Prediction Barbs, you're in such a weird position overall. And here we go. We might see it locked, but especially with that zap.
The zap is in.
It's not going to be
Bomb
enough,
going to go
though.
off. Skeleton Dragons are there. You and I couldn't even call the last 30 seconds of that match. There was such insane high-level gameplay. I can't wait to go back and actually look at the replay. Can you kind of talk us through what happened in those final moments? Because I don't think I can.
Look, I pride myself on being able to just look at the game and be able to commentate, but good lord, that was very clean from both players. Everybody doing exactly what they need to. I mean, I think my favorite play had to be one that didn't work out whatsoever. It was the barbs in the middle to try and get the King Tower to lock onto the barbs instead of the Loon. I mean, it was two players who understand all the intricacies of the game itself and trying to abuse certain different interactions. I mean, I was blown away by it, going in with the Loon Bridge and then using the Loon to tank for the Miner. I mean, we look at the Crown Tower locked onto the Miner, and if the Crown Tower is locked onto the Crown Tower is locked onto the Loon, and had it been locked onto the Miner, he wouldn't have been able to get as much chip damage with the Miner itself, and that's why we saw, everything was just done exactly how you should be. That was textbook gameplay.
Yeah, it was beautiful stuff. I mean, two players at the highest caliber living in the future. I mean, the barbs in the pocket was beautiful. The prediction there from the Royal Delivery was incredible. Then you saw the prediction barbs in the lower right-hand side with the Inferno Dragon pre-cycle to keep that Valkyrie off the tower. I mean, Samuel was doing all the things to make Rad have to really, really work for this win. And man, what a beautiful set of Clash Royale.
Yeah, that might be one of my favorite games I've ever watched in general. I mean, it was just prediction after prediction, insane play after insane play. I was like, I am just glad we got to witness that.
So here we go, game number one, Josh. This was where we saw Samuel Basoto kind of get a little overzealous early on with that bar barrel. It's something that you never want to do playing against bait, right? So the bar barrel comes out aggressively on offense. Then we get a skeleton barrel plus goblin barrel push from Rad, and that's basically it. It's basically game over from that point on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do in this kind of matchup. I mean, maybe cycle MK in the back behind the King Tower and then just try and overwhelm. But yeah, I mean, Rad, we saw it in game number 3. He's too talented to even let that happen. And yeah, I mean, just cycling skeleton barrels correctly, cycling goblin barrels, forcing out bar barrels. I mean, he just did whatever he wanted in that game.
So here we go, game number 2, the dominance of the Electro Giant showing in full force here. You saw that push come in late in the game from Samuel Basoto, the very first one. Really kind of hit Rad on the chin and dazed him, and then that second Electro Giant comes down and it's game over. You talk about NATOing everything together, that lightning coming in, and this is just a really tough matchup for Rad.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised to see him use the MK on defense at one point because there was an opportunity to use E-barbs. Yeah, I mean, it was just so difficult for him to do anything. And then game number 3, I mean, that was a master class from both players, using the Lava Loon to its fullest potential, and then Basoto also using the mortar deck to its fullest potential, using the mortar to pull the Loon in front, using prediction barbarians on top of the Miner, and then using the Valk in the pocket to try and force out more responses. I mean, that was insane.
Yeah, I really, really love that high mortar too from Basoto to make sure that that Lava Hound stayed back and the balloon was what was focused. So here we go at the top of our bracket here. Tribe, Sandbox, and Dark Angel is the next matchup of the day. Going to find out who's going to face off against Rad. Rad and either Dark Angel or Sandbox will be facing off. And then, of course, Ta and Schwatzen at the top there. At the bottom here in our elimination side of the bracket, SK Morton and Bob the Rock, both of them playing for their lives in match number 5 today. And of course, Samuel Basoto waiting down there at the bottom to find out who he's going to play between Sandbox and Dark Angel. Before I get out of here, and before you get out of here, we got to bring on Eric. We got to talk to Eric here a little bit about what we've seen so far today. Our former world champion head coach of Team Liquid, Eric Benamou. We've spent a lot of time together this week. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. And yeah, we definitely spent a lot of time, but I'm happy to be here. And now with Josh as well, today has been crazy.
So talk to me a little bit about what your highlights and lowlights are of today, and then I'm going to send it over to Josh, Eric. But what is some of the stuff that stood out to you the most?
Usually I like to talk about gameplay when we're doing this segment, but honestly today for me the highlight has been deck choice. We're in a new meta and definitely that's been the difference for me. We saw Morton, who we all expected to win, really not have a chance in that third game. That deck choice from top was phenomenal. And then from Schwarzen, when we saw that last deck, I know Josh said I wouldn't play this because I don't even have fun. But look, I'm going to be honest with you. As he was playing it, I copied onto a deck slot. It is what it is. I'm trying to win. And that's what it comes down to. That deck choice was so good. You don't even need that specific win condition because the Mother Witch is spawning all those hoggies over and over again that it turns into an offense. Deck choice for me is definitely the highlight.
And maybe lowlights of the day, Eric. Is there anything that's been very surprising to you from any of our players or things that you would want to adjust immediately as a coach?
I think mainly, I'm sorry to say, it was just that first game from Samuel was so odd to me. You guys touched on it a little bit. When I saw that bar barrel come in, it didn't really have anything to do with you're not going to get much damage. You know that, yeah, it might tank for a, 2-3 HP elite barbarian, but with bait on the other side and that being your only response, it was just a little bit odd. Other than that, I think the players that did lose didn't really have that much of an option. That third match from Bob, he ran into a wall or a million buildings, whatever you want to call it, and Morton just had no shot either.
So, Josh, we got about 35 seconds left. Obviously, you've been on the broadcast the entire time. Are there any things that you didn't get to touch on or anything that you want to see out of the next few matches today?
Yeah, I want to actually go to Morton's gameplay. It was the Graveyard versus Goblin Giant Sparky. I never got to touch on it, and it was, yes, it wasn't the greatest play to be able to go that aggressive with the push that he made in the beginning, going with the Graveyard at 5 Elixir. But here's the thing, with those kind of matchups, they're very difficult. They're considered 1090. They're considered 2080 matchups. And so you have to make interesting plays. And so the thing that I always preach or try to, tell people is, look, you got to give yourself a chance. That's what Morton did. It obviously didn't work out, but sometimes bad plays can sort of snowball things and make it kind of odd for your opponents to defend. And so I like that he tried it. Obviously it didn't work out, but I definitely respect what he was trying to do.
All right, guys, a little bit of advice here from our pros, a former coach, and of course, a former pro from AC and Eric Benamou. Guys, I'm going to say goodbye to you for a little bit. Of course, we'll see Eric in just a moment. I'm going to bring back Rich, my boy, Rich Slayton, my brother from another mother, a guy that I haven't seen since the top of the day. How you doing, man?
Doing all right. I mean, talk about brothers. We're twins once again, wearing the exact same T-shirt. So
yes.
We can't avoid it. Even the hair is similar this time around. I mean, it's looking good. Dude, you guys have been having a whole lot of fun so far, and I wanted to get a little note in here. The two crazy decks that we saw, the no win con deck and the spawner deck, those are from the last two CWA videos on his YouTube. So I don't know if CWA is driving the meta or if he's just cutting edge right now, but he's 2-0 so far in CRL this weekend.
Have you tried rocking either of those decks, Rich?
No. Spawners hurt me in my heart, so I can't do it. And the other one, I just haven't seen it yet. I'll go ahead and try it out. I mean, I'm not going to do what Morton did with it, but I'll go ahead and play it.
Yeah, I definitely cannot do what Morton did with it. All right, here we go. The last matchup at the top of the bracket here between Tribes, Sandbox, and of course, Dark Angel, a guy that some people were surprised to see here, but he's been playing pretty dang well this year, Rich.
Yeah, Dark Angel's always been a very good player. The question has always been whether he's an elite player. Dark Angel spent some time with Team Queso and CRL. One of his training partners is Ruben, who's one of the top players in the world, the #1 player of 2020. Dark Angel has always been a kid who has potential. The question is, will that potential be realized?
So here we go, getting a couple bites of food in as he sit back and waits for this match to start up. Sandbox on the other side of it, a young player, and a very, very strong player there for Tribe. I mean, it seems like this guy could be a part of that next generation coming into the pro scene.
Yeah, the South Korean probably would have been a rookie candidate for CRL had he been of age in time for the team format, but now we're able to see him here, and both of these players, Dark Angel and Sandbox, made it to the top 32 in the first round in that first monthly final and weren't quite able to break through. But both these guys, the number one word to describe them is potential.
Yeah, definitely. And right now, these guys just kind of sitting back, hanging out, wondering if they're both going to go to the skies, as Lava Hound has been kind of the beatdown deck of choice in the new meta. Of course, Electro Giant is out there, and Golem as well on ladder and in grand challenges, but not a ton in competition.
I'm still wondering if we do see Three Musketeers at all this weekend, and maybe from some of these younger players. There's a 3M Pump E-Barbs deck, sort of the 3M Pump Ram, but without the Battle Ram, that's going around a little bit right now, and I'm very curious to see if one of these younger players thinks they have the correct matchup and maybe has that as deck 4 and pulls the trigger.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really important point that you make as deck 4. I think when you talk about those spawner decks, when you talk about a deck like the one that you just mentioned, you want to make sure that your opponent doesn't have great responses, right? So if you're going to run an Elixir Pump deck, it's going to do you a great service if your opponent has already run Miner in one of the previous games or has already run Poison in one of the previous games, because one of the worst things that you can do is run an Elixir Pump deck against anyone that has Miner or Poison.
And here we go, staring contest.
Yeah.
We talked about how for so long staring contests usually meant Golem, and then of course that changed as time went on. But here we are, April, we're rewinding all the way back to 2018, and a staring contest does mean dropping a big old pile of rocks.
Yeah, excited to see the Golem coming out. As much as I feel like I was upset with that card for so many years of this game, I kind of miss it in competitive play. It's a very fascinating win condition, and it's really interesting when you talk about at the highest level, because, you know, these guys can defend. They can defend better than anyone else in the world, but that also means that you can put together a Golem push unlike anyone else, and it's a very, very slow win condition, and which is why we're seeing this aggressive push on the right-hand side.
The Goblin Cage work from Sandbox in that first offensive push was so great. The Goblin Cage, of course, helping pull and control that Golem, but then the Brawler itself picking up the aggro as well. So, so far, this has been a nice sequence. The question is, what will he do in the second round of defense as Dark Angel in sudden death overtime gets a nasty downhill push?
It does feel like when you talk about utility right now, Rich, that the Goblin Cage is just the best building in the game. Yes, the Tesla is the other most popular one, but when you talk about turning things into a counter push, and is what you just highlighted and is kind of showing right now, again, that Brawler cleaning up on defense is such a brilliant card. I really do love the Goblin Cage. 90
seconds left in sudden death overtime and pretty close at the moment. Wow, does get a connection, so now dual lane pressure, Andrew.
Yeah, that's a big-time connection there. 682 and 685 on the top two towers here for Dark Angel, but Sandbox still the lower of the three towers here, getting ticked down below 1400 with that poison.
You got to figure he wants to keep that pressure on in the right-hand lane the best he can, but going to go ahead and take a big Golem boom right here on the left-hand side, down to under 1,000 HP. And essentially, we're getting to the point where it's going to be a question of, does Dark Angel overcommit, or does he play it nice and slow and get the win?
He needs to just play it slow, man. He needs to just ride this out. He also needs to do a better job of picking up the flying machines. A shocking miss again. Flying machine going to town on that tower.
Wow.
Rich, that is going to take the tower.
Absolute wow. Flying machine not getting picked up. And as you said, Andrew, that's one of those game-changing moments. A flying machine is, of course, easily abusable if you don't have the right responses to it. But if you do have the right responses to it and you use them incorrectly, that's even worse.
I mean, you asked me just moments before that, what is Dark Angel going to do? Is he just going to sit back patiently and take the W? Or is he going to sit back a little bit too comfortably and miss a second pickup on the flying machine? That's happened 2 times in a row, and it's been, I mean, honestly, that was Sandbox's win condition this game. Yes, the Royal Hogs were there, but this flying machine working its way down that left-hand side was so sneaky time and time again.
Well, that's the crazy part here, Andrew, is that you really think that Dark Angel should not be winning the game in the same lane the Golem's pushing. Right? You're thinking that the whole idea is win the game in the opposite lane, but you don't pick up a flying machine a couple of times, and next thing you know, kaboom, tower down, and we're going to game 2 behind.
Yeah, it was kind of just a lackadaisical defense there from Dark Angel. And you even saw before, I think, when the flying machine had connected on the tower, we saw some low archers come out from Dark Angel, just assuming that it would be a pretty easy cleanup. But that flying machine was getting tanked for by the piggies, and then Sandbox doubles down with a fireball. And he finds himself in a substantial lead. It was just a very, very nice kind of sellout plays from Tribe's player.
Well, he did a very good job of controlling the golem early in the game. And of course, it got down to the wire at the end, right? It got close there on those last moments. But early in the game, he made a couple of good controlling plays on defense and didn't get behind too far too early. And all it takes is one big mistake, as we've seen here for a long time. And boom, there you go. So Sandbox, currently number 28 overall in points on our leaderboard, pulling ahead a little bit maybe here, potentially above Dark Angel, who's number 41 on the overall global leader.
I mean, he had like 500 HP on his tower against a golem deck with 1600 HP on both of Dark Angels. Just a fascinating mental mistake there from Dark Angel. Let's hope he can recover here in game number 2, rocking that fish boy.
Minor wall breakers here for Sandbox, and arrows are going to make this really, really annoying for Sandbox as time goes on. We'll see if there's another small spell in here to go with the arrows, and he has lots of options then to deal with both the wall breakers and the spear goblins as time goes on.
Yeah, arrow's definitely a frustrating thing to see when you are rocking those wall breakers. You know, no way to get a tank in for the wall breakers if those arrows come down. The other thing about it, though, is that if that is the biggest spell from Dark Angel, which it's looking like it may be, as we see Snowball coming out as his second spell, that Magic Archer from Sandbox needs to be his key to victory.
First minute away, Graveyard in. Valkyrie goes high for the P.E.K.K.A., so has to log off the skeletons here on the bottom. Skelly's starting to build up a bit, but then the Magic Archer in the back. So P.E.K.K.A. GY here for Dark Angel. Doesn't get a ton, but does take the lead back as we approach the midway point of regulation.
Yeah, P.E.K.K.A., Mama P.E.K.K.A., she's back in the meta, and a big part of that is because of that Electro Giant being one of the best responses out there. And of course, Mega Knight. Mega Knight being very, very firmly in the meta. Mama P.E.K.K.A., great response to that.
Magic Archer at the bridge, gets pushed back a little bit by the Snowball here. Should take a shot unless, yeah, late there with the Mega Minion. So does get a shot, and now Sandbox going hard on the left-hand side.
Yeah, you got that Valkyrie up high. A great log in to keep those Zappies off the board. Valkyrie still tanking for one of those Spear Goblins, now both of them, and then a Miner comes in to double down on this push. I love what we're seeing here from Sandbox.
The pressure is great. The pressure is phenomenal, and look what it does. He does have the damage lead back again, but more importantly, he's keeping that elixir lead here and trying not to give Dark Angel a great chance for a big P.E.K.K.A. GY push. We saw that earlier on. He was able to play defense one more time. The big question is, can Sandbox do it more and more as we get into double and then triple elixir?
Sandbox is really having a good time with his cycle here. He should be able to out-cycle those arrows as we keep moving through this game.
Magic Archer to the left-hand side here for Sandbox. 1874, his lowest tower on the right-hand side. Ahead by 1389, or 1389 on the left-hand lane, as Dark Angel sets up P.E.K.K.A. into the weak side.
Yeah, P.E.K.K.A. into the back. Good play there. You see Miner go to the other side of the tower, get a little bit of chip damage in, and try to make some space for those Spear Goblins. Not going to do it. I don't actually love those wall breakers. I feel like they're kind of sent into Oblivion and into a Mother Witch. And now we have a very, very healthy push coming down the lane here for Dark Angel. A little out of sequence, but still a very good push.
That Mother Witch timing from Dark Angel was great. Able to get both the Miner and then some Spear Goblins as well. You know, sometimes you see the Mother Witch come down and not get a whole lot out of it, but timing so far from Dark Angel good. The question is, can he make up this huge difference?
Yeah, we see their arrows coming out again on top of those wall breakers. Miner gets a little bit of chip damage in. I don't know if it was a bit of an overspend knowing that those wall breakers were going to meet the arrows, but still in a good spot, still getting chip damage in is Sandbox, and with very, very healthy towers.
And look at that, Fisherman not getting the Magic Archer off the board, so a bit more damage here. But Mother Witch staying 1 HP, staying alive.
Wow.
Wallbreaker doesn't connect, forces the arrows out.
Yeah, arrows come out last second there. Mother Witch not doing her job, so making Dark Angel overspend by just a little bit. Now, Mother Witch out early, up high, sneaks in front of the P.E.K.K.A. That is a big, big misplay.
Deep P.E.K.K.A. tanking with everything right now. Snowball to get those Spear Goblins off the board. These wall breakers do not connect. Fishboy playing some defense. Graveyard making things interesting, and this is where it gets really, really tight for Sandbox, Andrew.
Yeah, double Magic Archers down for Sandbox. Miner to the back. We go up high with the wall breakers. He's not back to arrows, and those wall breakers connect, Rich.
GG, well played. Clean 2-0 for Sandbox. Very, very well played here in game number 2. Kept the pressure on, did not let Dark Angel get in a good spot in terms of his elixir, and punished him repeatedly. Very, very well played by the young rookie.
Yeah, Sandbox did a really, really great job of he always set in the wall breakers to get out the arrows from Dark Angel, making sure that that was never in cycle for anything else, and also spending down to 1 or 0 regularly. And I said it earlier, there was going to be a moment when he would be able to out-cycle Dark Angel, but he never pushed for it, Rich. He waited for, I think, a couple minutes after I had said that for it to line up perfectly with his cycle. And you see right there, just a brilliant connection to a game that Dark Angel continued to cycle that P.E.K.K.A in the back. Sandbox was unfazed by it. He just kept going in with his offensive pushes, getting damage in where and when he could, and continued to make Dark Angel work through his cycle.
You make a really good point there, Andrew. The point about he had a chance to out-cycle those arrows, but he didn't push for it, right? And that's one of the things we talk about a lot, especially with rookie players first time on the big screen, on the big stage, is going over pushing for those big moments, trying to make the thing they need to have happen, rather than making it happen when it's supposed to happen. And Sandbox did a great job of that in both of these games. Maybe a bit lucky in game number 1 with Dark Angel missing those flying machines on his defensive side, but in game number 2 did a great job of exactly what you talked about.
Yeah, and in game number 1, Rich, he was still doing the thing that it felt like he had to do. You were saying it's like, he won in the lane that he was playing against the golem, but he never gave up pressure in the opposite lane, right? He was still going through the motions and making the correct plays. It was just that really, really fortunate flying machine connection twice in a row on the left-hand side that gives him game number 1. And as we hop over into game number 2 and these two decks, what we just saw, really surprising when you talk about Dark Angel having the ability to continue cycling those P.E.K.K.A.s in the back on the left-hand side, but really never being able to get anything out of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those questions where you're up against such a fast cycle deck, going to those P.E.K.K.A cycles so often, putting that 7 elixir down when you know there's an opportunity for your opponent to get some serious chip damage. If you're not confident that that P.E.K.K.A is going to go to the other side of the board and get the offensive pressure that you need, then it's one of those moments where you have to ask yourself, does continuing to cycle the P.E.K.K.A that way pay off? And for Dark Angel in this situation, it certainly did not.
Yeah, and Sandbox kept using that to his advantage. If the P.E.K.K.A was cycled early on, he would be able to tell the trajectory of her path and send the miner to the opposite side, make her work all the way back around as slow as she is. That is not what you want to happen. So, Rich, here we are with our bracket, finally finishing out our first 4 matches today.
Yeah, really fascinating stuff here where you have Sandbox now going up against Rad. And, if you took predictions earlier on this first round of gameplay, Morten going into the lower bracket in round 1, probably no one's prediction there. Bob and Schwarzen, the former teammates, you probably think that Schwarzen has a slight advantage, but Bob is definitely a high-tier player. Rad, a longtime pro, but who was betting against Samuel Basoto other than his brother who said, dude, it's my wedding, pay attention. And then Sandbox over Dark Angel. This is the one that you probably thought as well had Sandbox for the advantage. And Rad versus Sandbox is going to be a really interesting one here in our upper bracket.
Yeah, and you take a look at the lower bracket matches 5 and 6, which is going to be coming up just down the road here in a minute, is Morten and Bob the Rock. That feels like it should go towards Morten's favor, but Bob the Rock had some really, really nice stuff in his opening set. Samuel Basoto and Dark Angel, as you just said, Samuel Basoto playing a little bit out of sorts, but Dark Angel making some very, very glaring mistakes there in his 2 games.
It's going to be interesting. Do we see the 2 highest rated players in this monthly final go out early, or do they get it together? Right, Morten should have the advantage over Bob the Rock, but the big struggle for Morten lately has been deck choice. He's been getting matched up a lot. And I was speaking with OP Sam, his former 2v2 partner, and he says that Morten doesn't work with a team for analysis. Morten makes his own deck choices, whereas I bet that Bob the Rock has a whole squad with him working to figure out what to choose against Morten, and we'll see if that pays off for the young man.
Speaking of Morten, we do have a great segment with Morten coming your guys' way, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. Let's check out Deck Me Out with our good friend from SK, Morten.
Hey guys, I'm Morten and you're watching Deck Me Out. I'm going to be reviewing 3 of my decks from last month, and I'm going to give you insight on what worked, why some things didn't work, and how to improve your game. The format that we are playing this year is gonna be the duels format. Let me break this down for you guys. First, players bring 4 decks with 32 different cards. Each deck can only play it once, and we must with a best of 3, so we always need to switch up our decks and we can just play every deck and every card once. My first deck I chose is the Graveyard Cycle deck. It's a really strong deck. It's overall really solid in the dual modes. You can use a ton of spells and cards which you don't really need in other decks. In my Graveyard deck especially, there's like the Fireball, Knight, Skeletons, Archers, Megaman. And Megaman and Archers aren't really cards you use in different decks. So that's why I decided Graveyard, and Graveyard overall is one of the best decks in the meta, in the game. So I really like to have this as a really solid, safe deck. So as I said, triple elixir time. It's more like spamming graveyards overall and just try to be aggressive, but I think right now this is a huge push. He has 2 Mega Knights on the field and I was kind of worried here, but I go in for High Knight. Actually a really great miner by him, great Zap also, so I'm kind of scared here that something is logging on. So I'm just spamming my troops and just hope, okay, please don't be too much damage, because I know I can still get like 400, 500 damage with 1 graveyard and my spells on it. So I'm actually cycling 3 Mega Mean. It's really great defense for me, I think. So 200 damage, disadvantage still, but I know I have to go 1 more graveyard push. Going with the graveyard here, putting all my spells in a tower, I'm just like praying, please Skeletons connect to a tower. I'm getting the miner catch here with the Skeletons on defense, going also with the Knight, and yeah, good game. GG's to Samuel for sure. He played really well, but 200 HP. As I said, like in triple elixir time, there's like almost no way for him to win the game there. The next deck I'm gonna show you is the Hawk Rider deck. Hawk EQ, kind of like in a different variation with the Inferno Tower in it, because I just feel like in the dual mode especially, Inferno Tower can really help, because you see more Golem, more Lava, more E-Giant than you see in the normal modus, and that's why I put the Inferno Tower in. Hawk Rider overall really solid, can be a really good surprise, especially you can have the Earthquake in it. I decided for the Fireball because I had the Earthquake in a different deck. People didn't really expect to see it, so just in the surprise factor, I decided to pick Hawk Cycle as well. And we go for Lock here. He's gonna NATO that. He's gonna get a ton of damage with the miner here once again. I'm just going for Hawk Rider here. The wall breakers are not enough, so I'm gonna go for the Q here. And I think I'm just gonna go in with another Knight at the bridge. He's gonna go in with a miner here. He's gonna go in with Tornado as well. And he's gonna get a ton of damage. I'm gonna lock here, and I'm just gonna go in with a miner. For Hawk Rider as well. He's going for Magic Arch Prediction, which didn't work out. I'm gonna go with that. He gets the Bomb Tower last second, and now I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to cycle here. I should have played this time. I should have played the lock in the defense, and then kinda try to retarget the miner on the Knight and then EQ his tower, because that would have been enough. But I just tried, okay, I thought like just try to spell out his tower, just cycle my lock on the tower and get back to another EQ.
Nothing is there to catch the miner. There's the NATO. Morton loses by 29 HP.
Oh my God. Magic Archer again for Morton in a championship game, and just ends up being the absolute nightmare, the demon he can't get away from.
But in this situation, I should have played the lock on defense, then play the Knight on the miner and redirect it, and then just go with the EQ. So yeah, it was a great game. I think I played overall, maybe there were just like 1-2 things I could have played better. So my favorite tip for you guys, if you want to be a CRL pro player, like the first tip is always try to improve your gameplay and play as much as you can. I felt like I improved a lot while I just played the game a lot. I played with friends, I played with challenges, I played top ladder, and I just improved with different decks by playing a lot. This was Deck Me Out, and I hope I'm gonna see you in the next qualifier. See you guys.
You gotta love him, Andrew. You and I have seen Morton playing since he was the young star of the early SK gaming, when we knew this guy was going places, and continued to a Western Championship. But that one thing he needs to get, and we'll see if he gets it this year, that's that overall World Championship.
Yeah, I think his dedication and love for Clash Royale is unmatched by any other pros out there. Not to say that he loves the game more than them. It's just his commitment and dedication to it, grinding hours, 12 hours a day, streaming for 12 hours a day. It's incredible. So here we go. Morton, Bob the Rock, two guys that are very, very familiar with one another, but one who should have a pretty big advantage in this set, Rich.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. You know, Morten, obviously one of the all-time... There's almost never been a time for the last 3 years where someone didn't say he's a top 5 player in the world. At many times, #1 player in the world. The big question, and it's been the big question throughout this event, both last month and this month, is deck selection, is that deck choice, is matchup type situations. And Morten can almost conspicuously plays with bad matchups quite often. So we'll see if Bob can get that same advantage here.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, you know, when we talk about Morten's matchup and that kind of tidbit of information that was dropped beforehand from you talking about Morten not talking to analysts or strategists or even just SK in general about his deck selection, which is a really surprising thing to think about from a guy at this level, you know, because one of the things that we always hear from coaches and analysts is like, look, I'll tell them what I think and they're going to do what they want to do. That's fine. They're the best in the world for a reason. But to not even get that information is a bit of a surprise.
And maybe a bit of a surprise, Andrew, it's 2021, and we're seeing RG E-Barbs. I mean, I know it's not surprising right now because this deck's around, but just the idea that RG E-Barbs, a 2018 mid-ladder spammer, is now a CRL deck, it's what world are we living in?
I know. It's a very relevant CRL deck at that. And so Morten going to be in an interesting position here. We're going to have to use that mortar a lot on defense, coupled with the log and the E-Barbs. Minor chip damage, minor plus bats or spear goblins is going to be his key to victory, I believe, in this game. But as you were just talking about, this guy has done uncharacteristic things in horrible matchups from the first time we've ever met him, and he's played through them. So we'll see what he does here.
Oh, and it's going to be delivery here. I was curious. I've seen this Mortar Minor E-Barbs deck going around a little bit lately with Rocket mixed in. So I was very curious to see if this was a Rocket variation. Instead, you see it's a Fireball variant. Getting that control there in the middle as we go past the first couple of minutes of gameplay, still fairly even as Morten contends with these E-Barbs.
Yeah, the nice thing that Morten has here when you talk about defending against the E-Barbs is that he can do it without having to play his own, right? He's got the bats and the delivery to really help out because he's going to want to hold these barbs to get on top of the RG here. And now you see him defending without the mortar, maybe trying to go on offense with that mortar here in just a moment after he sends in this big push.
This is going to be really compelling, you know, not just that part of the question of, you know, what does he end up making his offense about in terms of the mortar versus the minor. The bats and spear goblins are such a risk because you can see now Bob the Rock using the heal spear on the bats in that moment, just kind of sitting back for a good time to use that Mother Witch, and she can really, really punish for those two very critical cards in this deck.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We're talking about two of the highest DPS cards from Morten that are just going to feed that Mother Witch. And now Trouble coming in, a massive, you know, push here coming across the bridge from Carol de Groot, and that Fireball not getting on top of the Mother Witch, now paying her dues on trying to get those bats into piggies.
Spear Goblins low this time, doing a lot of good work, but unfortunately for Morten, just the pile-on happening at the bridge gives up a lot of damage here. 724 remaining as we go into sudden death overtime. Bob the Rock just keeping the pressure on here, and it's starting to get too much.
Yeah, another Mother Witch down to send in some more piggies. Fireball is in on both sides of the board. 376 remains on that bottom left-hand tower, and this does feel like a lost cause for Morten at this point.
Well, you see that Fireball, and of course, Fireball, a great response to the Mother Witch, and there goes the E-Barb's pickup. I mean, I'm almost wondering if he wants to be hovering on that Fireball, waiting for Mother Witch to come out and just get her off the board as fast as possible. The only issue is then you have to have the Elixir available for that Royal Giant, which has been an absolute menace.
Yeah, and the push on that left-hand side that kind of put Morten in the trouble that we see him in right now was just that he did not have enough spell power or enough damage to get all that off the board. You saw the Fireball come out on the E-Barbs and the Royal Giant, but as you said, Rich, that just leaves the Mother Witch wide open. You think you want to hover that Fireball on top of the Witch, but then you have no real way of dealing with these big pushes coming across the bridge.
I mean, again, we're talking about the same issue here, Andrew. It's the same issue over and over again, and it's the matchup issues for Morten. This is really, really tough. You think about how important those two Elixir bats are in this matchup between these two players. The Mother Witch is one insanely good response. The E-Wiz, if you don't have the Mother Witch, there's never a way that those bats end up being a factor in this game other than being very deep on defense, but you're against Royal Giant, so deep on defense doesn't work.
Exactly. And there it is. Ewiz up high to take off the bats, get a little bit of damage in on that Spear Goblin. And, you know, I agree with you, man. There's a reason why that this deck specifically isn't the Mortar deck, right? There's a couple little changes in there, usually at least. And Spear Goblins plus bats with Mother Witch being in the meta right now and running it in game 1, it's just kind of it's a really risky maneuver.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know how much Morten loves playing minor variations and how good he is with minor variations, but in this situation, again, it's not even just the Mother Witch and the Ewiz. We also saw the Heal Spirit come in and neutralize the bats. So you get one good defense with it, and at that point, Bob just goes, cool, let me just make sure that one of these 3 cards that counters fairly well is available at all times. And since it's 3 of my 8 cards, that's pretty easy for me to do. And this was just a rough situation for Morten, and very well played by Bob. Didn't get over aggressive with it, played the defense, and just built up big stuff behind those Royal Giants.
Yeah, and when he did get aggressive, it was at the perfect time. You saw that high Mother Witch being played at the bridge to couple with that Fisherman, try to get a couple more piggies on the board, so it gets another Fireball out of Morten, which means, you know what? Great, I can reset with a E-Barbs plus Royal Giant push on the left-hand side, and you don't have the Fireball in cycle this time around, which means you have to defend with your bait cards, and I will be back to another Mother Witch. So nothing but matchup trouble, it feels like, so far today for the German.
Yeah, we'll be very curious to see what he does as we go into games 2 and 3, but that's been a trouble not just this month, but also last month as well with the matchup considerations, so we'll see. But very, very nicely chosen there by Bob the Rock. Morten's known for playing minor wall breakers a lot these days, bait variations, and just going, hey, you know what, game number 1, you might try to outcycle me. Let me go with a deck that I know can handle that outcycling. Very, very smart choice here from Bob.
Yeah, I would really like to see Morten go with something that's really more kind of like a firm archetype in the meta. I'd love to see some E-Giant out of him. I'd love to see some Piggies split with the Flying Machine and some, you know, whether it's Mega Knight or Royal Recruits. I just want to see him run something that isn't just so Morten and is a little bit more Clash Royale right now.
Well, he's a little bit less worried about a Mother Witch because it is dual mode, no Mother Witch out in game number 2, so just going to be some sort of Hog cycle, probably a Hog EQ variation here from Morten, and that's a nice easy King Tower activation for Bob.
Yeah, maybe Hog triple spell, and you just wonder if Bob knew it was coming, right? I mean, Morten loves running Hog Rider. We literally just saw him talk through a Hog Rider deck in the Deck Me Out section, and he goes minor plus in game number 1, as you said, Rich. No surprise there, Morten loves minor, and then in game number 2, he goes back to Hog plus a bunch of spells. No surprise there either.
First minute away, Morten does have the lead, but the King Tower activation is in, and that is going to cut down the Hog shots by about half most of the way through, looking like we're up against a freeze deck here from Bob.
Yeah, Bowler slowly working his way back into the meta as well. Great against the Royal Recruits, great against the Mother Witch. Really, really strong card in the meta right now.
So Archers down low, plenty of elixir for that freeze, and there you go. Boom, GY freeze in. The Archers don't get taken off by the Skeletons, though, as Skellies come out to protect, so that defense ended up working out okay for Morten, who's going to put down a big counter push now.
Yeah, big push at the bridge. Hog plus Electro Spirit. There you go. Hog going to the King Tower. Electro Spirit comes out. Great Mega Minion up high, and a beautiful defense there from Karel de Groot. And you can see Morten not super excited about what just happened.
I was about to say, look at that big breath from Morten. And again, it's a situation where, you know, the NATO is pretty much, there are basically no other targets for the Tornado in Morten's deck but the Hog Rider. So unless he's going to go ahead and outcycle that, the Hog's not going to be getting a whole lot of shots. But to outcycle, it's when you're trying to make sure you don't get caught flat-footed against Graveyard Freeze, a lot of trouble here for the German.
And you see what Karel de Groot is doing, which I actually love, is he's just cycling cards one to the left, one to the right, one to the left, one to the right. And the reason is Morten has to go into the weaker of the 2 lanes. He cannot go into the same lane as Graveyard time and time again. But you can see this opens up the door for Bob the Rock to just pick and choose where he wants to drop his Graveyard, because he's always got that Tornado, as you said, ready for that Hog Rider.
Defensive Earthquake in. This time that might be outcycling the Tornado. And yes, he is going to get 1 shot, maybe 2 here. The Ice Wiz does slow down well enough. So Morten does get the outcycle and not that far behind. Bob the Rock up now 1688 to 1672 as we are just a few seconds away from sudden death.
And Bob the Rock cycles to the left-hand side, getting that bowler down with the Mega Minion, getting ready to get a counter push in, so Morten does what he has to do, right? Switch lanes once again. Hog Rider going to get one hit in here, and no NATO comes down because he doesn't have to over-defend, now trying to really get a strong graveyard push in on one side, going to go to the left.
Archers low, Knight high. Archers do get frozen off. EQ defensively, second time in a row now for Morten to use that defensive Earthquake against the graveyard. Hog Rider did what it had to do here, and that bowler should be enough. I think we might get one shot from the Hog, and we do 1250 remaining. Morten doing a good job battling back high with the Inferno Tower.
Yeah, Morten did an excellent job on defense that last time around because those archers stayed on the board and helped clean up the graveyard, helped take that bowler off the board. Those archers staying alive was really huge for Morten on that last exchange, and now you see him pulling ahead by about 600 HP. This is very, very good for him.
Yeah, a little surprised there that Bob gave the Ice Wiz and EQ value there on that left-hand side. We'll see. Final minute, triple elixir on its way. Graveyard gets real nasty right about now. Archers down low. Inferno Tower not going to go to the bowler, so Knight comes out. The defensive EQ. Morten's in actually a pretty good spot right now, Andrew.
He's in a great spot, Rich. That one time when he beat the cycle of Bob the Rock has just been really, really brutal for Bob to recover from. And you see Bob still doing the same thing, kind of putting units down on both sides of the board, but he's never actually able to make either of these pushes that substantial. And Morten can do the easy thing and just go right back on offense with that Hog Rider.
Snowball, will it control the Mega Minion? Does the Mega Minion get on tower? Mega Minion being held off. Knight does come down just in time. 23 seconds left. Here we go.
Big push on the right-hand side. You can see that Morten's really more concerned about the left-hand tower. 1076 remains on that, but he's trying to defend on the right and continue keeping these troops back behind the bridge. Now he goes Hog Rider to the left-hand side. Heavy push here. No NATO in cycle because it's a sellout offensive push on the bottom right.
Bob does get the NATO in, but the graveyard not going to do enough. GG, well played. We are all tied up here. Morten takes game number 2. We're going to number 3.
Just a fascinating kind of breakdown of that game. It felt like that Bob felt like he was in control the whole time, but actually was in zero control the whole time. He was playing into Morten's hand, and once he beat that cycle, Rich, it was all Morten for the rest of that game.
Yeah, King Tower activation early, but when the Hog Rider got in and got on tower, an immediate swing, and you saw some early EQ cycle, but the thing that Morten did here, they ended up being really critical because he knew he needed to have that snowball to control some of the troops to get that knockback, was the defensive earthquakes against these graveyards, and here goes one of them. This, in my opinion, was the major factor in winning this matchup for Morten besides that outcycling.
And what was also fascinating from Morten was his ability to always have archers on the board. He was either able to get them up high and then cycle them again down low, or if they were cycled as his first line of defense, he did everything he could to keep them on the board, which stopped the pushes coming across the bridge, and most importantly, really hurt those graveyards from Bob the Rock.
Yeah, and you see that 2.8 elixir cycle, 7 elixir to get all the way around. Bob takes 13. That's a huge difference, yeah. 7 versus 13 to get back around. And the NATO, Bob sat on it a lot early on, did a good job controlling it early on, but over time, Morten just took control of the game.
Yeah, and there was one point where we saw Bob come across the bridge, get a graveyard in, get in a freeze and a tornado, and still was not able to take off those archers that then took out the bowler, and he had definitely overspent. And it was that moment where Morten really put the hurting on. And I also really loved, I watch Morten stream all the time. That man is more okay with changing lanes than anyone that I've ever seen play Clash Royale.
And here we go, Morten playing a bait variation up against Lava Hound with arrows.
So here we go. Skarmy at the bridge on the opposite side of the board. Going to see what comes out. Barbs come out. I love that Barbs play because it's going to have a nice counter push here on the opposite side. And the Skarmy was most likely the best response to the Barbs.
So super bait deck with Mother Witch as well. Just selling out the defensive on the left-hand side here and not even worrying about, oh, this is nice. The kite does, oh, the kite almost pulled the skeleton dragons. You saw what Morten was going for there. Doesn't pay off, and that's going to be probably towered down on the left. But this Mega Knight going the opposite direction, and check out that. Inferno Dragon comes on out. Big lead here for Bob, but a nice counter push for Morten.
Nice zap there from Bob. Didn't have the arrows back around, or maybe didn't have the elixir. Now the arrows are in cycle for the Skarmy. There they go. Arrows come down. 1132 on that top right tower to 1421 on the bottom right. I think we may be saying goodbye to Morten in this competition, Rich.
It's certainly possible. I am wondering if that last card is a spell or if it's a Royal Giant. He's going with yet another little Chen variation with the Mother Witch mixed in.
Yeah, we saw it switched out with, Mega Knight originally, and then it became, Giant Skeleton. Now it looks like we're back over to what could be Mega Knight, but Mother Witch, of course, is there. Skarmy, though, one of the more interesting cards in the game right now. When Mother Witch is in play, obviously very brutal to have, but otherwise, you talk about baiting out those small spells and the utility you can get from the Skarmy. It's still incredibly powerful.
Sets up with the Mega Knight to the left-hand side with the Princess in support as well. Mega Knight might get on tower here. Bob should control. No, the arrows do stop the connection. Final minute, double elixir, and this is Morten fighting for his life, and it is a Royal Giant, so Little Chen variant. And look at that, the nice high skeleton dragons to prevent the RG support from the zap.
Yeah, that was really, really nice on both sides of it, but you can see this Princess going to town on that left-hand tower on that last defense of the bait push. We saw Bob the Rock way overspend. He went zap first on the Goblin Barrel and then still had to drop down the arrows. And that is why we find Morten doing what Morten does, coming back in a game that he had no business staying in. Now firmly in the lead with double the HP of his opponent. Now we go Mega Knight in the pocket, beating some barbs.
Andrew, I was just about to say that Morten doesn't have any direct damage spells, so watch out. Maybe he loses this one even with all that tower damage. And then just Archie at the bridge, gets on tower, nothing there to stop it. And we are in a good spot here for Morten, but here comes the balloon. Can he beat this out? Royal Giant down, Miner gets in, Archie gets his first shot, second shot, and there you go. Morten takes the win here, and you see a huge sigh of relief as the SK Gaming leader moves on in our bracket.
Oh, that was dirty, man. He slips the RG in the pocket. 2 easy shots. Doesn't worry about defending. What a beautiful heads-up play. And that was after a very beautiful opportunity for a kite here that was just missed by a bit.
Yeah, I mean, that Mega Knight was brilliant in thought and just didn't quite execute. And you look at this and you go, oh, that's it. This is a done game now with that tower down this way. But got a ton of damage here on the counterplay, and that made him stay alive as we went on deeper into the game.
We kept seeing Bob the Rock do something very, very interesting, Rich, and that was that he would zap the goblins and arrow the Skarmies. You need to change up that order of operations, and if it's not in the cycle for you, you need to make it in the cycle, because you kept seeing him overspend on those defenses. Morten had no business coming back in this game, and Bob the Rock just left the door wide open for him.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. It might have been a cycle issue, and, there are some decks where repairing your cycle is a bit easier. This isn't one of them. This is a heavier deck. Trying to repair the cycle there is difficult, because especially you're talking about those Goblin Barrels, there's not a lot of excellent responses to those Goblin Barrels if the arrows are on the wrong side of your cycle. So, very difficult situation there for Bob. And, I don't know what the solution is to get that fix done in a matchup like this one.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like Morten did a really good job of just making him play uncomfortably that whole time. I'm sure if we recognized it, Bob recognized it. It was just the fact that his opponent really never let him get there. So here we go. Game number 1 we see going in the favor of Bob the Rock. And this was just a lot of trouble, Rich. You and I focused a lot on these cheap cards, the Spear Goblins and the Bats, and kind of the way that they just fed that Mother Witch.
Yeah, Morten went with an interesting choice here. Obviously, it's in the game right now. Interesting choice for game number 1 with no information.
Yeah.
Look, it's got a lot of solid defensive capability between the triple spell here. A lot of ways to hold off a lot of things that are strong right now. But on the flip side of it, you don't know where Mother Witch is. You're putting in 2 key cards are both Mother Witch dependent. And yeah, that was a GG in game number 1.
I mean, you know that out of the 3 decks your opponent runs, you're going to see Mother Witch in one of them, you're going to see E-Barbs in another one of them, or maybe in the same one. So like you said, and I think it was probably the best way to put it, was just no information going into game number 1 with a lot of opportunity for a Mother Witch. Game number 2, It felt like Morten was out of this pretty early on, or that he'd at least have a very difficult time. But the moment that he recognized that his cycle was twice that of Bob the Rocks, or twice as cheap, I should say, he got in the right position, kept his dual lane pressure up, and honestly, he just outplayed him down the road.
Yeah, Bob struggled playing defense when we got into the double and triple elixir, you know, not always having the NATO and then not blocking with the bowler Valk as much as he maybe would have liked to. And the defensive EQs from Morten. You know, there are two cards that he will play almost exclusively on offense for most players, and that's Miner and Earthquake. But those are two cards where in certain situations, playing them defensively is critical, and Morten did that great here.
And you had a really brilliant heads-up call here saying, is this going to be a new iteration of the Little Chen deck? Yes, sir, it is. Mega Knight, Royal Giant together once again with Skarmy and Princess and Beryl, but a few changes in there as well. Love the Mother Witch in this deck. Didn't actually pay off a ton in this specific matchup. You know, didn't see a lot of piggies coming off of those lava pups, but this was a match that Morten just Mortened his opponent. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. And you know what, Andrew? I really wish that Mega Knight pull on the Skeleton Dragons to the Barbs had worked, because that would have been play of the day. Of course, that prediction Royal Delivery that we saw from Samuel against the Barbs currently is standing as the #1 play, but we might get to see those two go head-to-head. Morten moves on in the lower bracket. Bob the Rock out here in our top 8, but picking up some great points towards the World Finals, towards that World Finals berth. And now coming up next, the question is Samuel Basoto currently standing near the altar, getting ready to see someone tie the knot, or is he able to slip away and find a dark corner where he can try to go up against Dark Angel?
Yeah, and you know, on Dark Angel's side of it, we saw some pretty big mental mistakes from him, but also maybe just getting his feet wet, getting ready, you know, getting used to being back in CRL. So hopefully to see some better plays out of him, some more heads-up stuff, a little bit more responsive and aggressive defenses from Dark Angel here in his second set.
Well, Andrew, you're going to unfortunately have to watch it. Maybe fortunately have to watch it as a spectator as opposed to be here part of the commentary. But good seeing your brother, hopefully. Well, I guess I'll see you again tomorrow as well. So we're going to say bye-bye to Andrew for now and bring on the longtime coach of Team Liquid, world champion coach. And if you're on Twitch a whole bunch, you might see him there. EB7, Eric Benemu. Eric, hi. That last matchup, that felt like seeing Morten do vintage Morten.
Yeah, I've been on the wrong side of those matchups a lot in my career, and it's definitely a lot more fun watching it. It was an insane comeback. Obviously, like you guys said, there were arrows, right? It just seemed like he was a little off there, Bob, on trying to get that right. And Morten, like always, makes sure he pounces on his opponents when there is a mistake.
So here we go into our other lower bracket matchup. This is an elimination match. Loser leaves town. Winner goes on to face Morten in the, or no, loser leaves town to face someone else in our next round of the lower bracket. Samuel Basoto and Dark Angel. And of course, Samuel is thought of as the favorite overall here. One of the favorites overall in the game. But there's that big question of whether he's too busy dancing to We Are Family right now to actually play Clash Royale.
Yeah, and also Dark Angel here, this is what I love about this format, right? He was out of CRL the last year, and now he comes back. He almost qualifies 1 month, and now he comes back and qualifies to this finals. And yeah, the first match was a little bit iffy. Maybe he's trying to, you know, get back into rhythm, but Samuel also had some mistakes. So I think it's all about who can minimize those mistakes and really play their top game.
So here we go. Seeing similar thought processes on both sides. Might be seeing some bridge spam style decks. Could be Ram Rider out of Dark Angel. Samuel Basoto setting up with the Cannon Cart here with Bandit.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I really like the Cannon Cart in this new meta with how slow it is, but I do like that at least he's implementing the Mother Witch. The only thing that I am a little bit cautious about when I see Mother Witch first, this is a duels format, right? So that opens the door maybe to let Dark Angel run some graveyard decks, knowing that that's not a problem anymore.
This is interesting too. I believe that Samuel is running a variation of the Prince deck that we saw Morten run in our opening match of the day with the Cannon Cart in for the Prince. So we'll see if he can make similar use of it here against Dark Angel. First minute and 30-ish away. And at the moment, with that Bandit Dash connection, Samuel Basoto in the lead.
With that type of deck, any connection is a great connection, and a Bandit definitely does a lot of damage with that dash. So right now, Samuel's in a good position. He knows that this type of deck, as the time goes on, if you can get into that triple elixir, the amount of pressure that you can make is so good.
And that Fireball Mother Witch combo getting a little extra there on the tower as the one little pig does connect. This is a nice heal spirit, though, that should make that Yeah, it does force out a response from the Bandit, made that Ghost a little bit more concerning. Lots of elixir right now for Dark Angel, does leak a little bit.
It's one of those heal spirits that looks good in play, but at the end of the day, you're forcing out a bandit that then you have to defend as well. So you have to be very, very careful with that. It ended up forcing a defense out of him, and now he's a little bit on the back foot. Mega Knight was played on the back right, and he definitely took advantage of that to spam those elite barbarians that do a lot of damage if they get on your tower.
Healthy Mega Knight in with the Ram Rider behind. Cannon Cart to pull the Mega Knight. Ewa's on the outside for the Ram Rider. Samuel Basoto trying to hold on, but Dark Angel in a good spot here to put a ton of damage in. And it's the Ewas in the left-hand lane that does the big chunk, 1988 to 1807. Dark Angel firing back.
And Samuel right now is, really, really thankful that he decided to go Ewiz and not Magic Archer in this bridge spam style deck, because that's the only reason he got away with that. Dark Angel put in a massive and very calculated push there, just the Ewiz doing its job against the Ram Rider.
Heal Spirit doesn't give that extra heal back to the Cannon Cart as it goes on the left-hand side. Good fireball timing here, but the nice Heal Spirit protection. Ewiz does go off the board. Cannon Cart dropped early. And this Ram Rider trying to get away from the Ewas on the right-hand side and not going to get a connection here, 1830 to 1476, as we are in sudden death overtime. And another Ewas connects on the right, but a huge counter push coming in on the left-hand side.
He needs to be really, really careful here. I understand what he was going with that Cannon Cart for, but it doesn't really work out. The Mega Knight heads-up play there, and this could turn into a problem because I expect a good defense out of him, Dark Angel here, and then it's time to really push, and make this opponent uncomfortable.
Royal Ghost in. Ewiz now one shot. Piggy trying to escape and does not get on tower. The protection attempts from these bar barrels from Basoto, right idea, just not quite getting it done.
It's a little bit hard when you have a Mega Knight on the other side, but this is where it can get a little bit problematic, right? We're about to head into triple elixir, and you don't really have the game in your control. Usually the bridge spam player at this point, when you head into triple, has the control, and that's where you start seeing the pushes. But I don't think Dark Angel is in a bad position here.
Lightning left-hand side. Heal Spirit comes on in.
I don't want to see him do anything else with this Ghost. Don't try to Heal Spirit it. Don't try to do anything. You need one good massive push, and you need to have the Lightning ready. It's the only way that your Ram Rider is going to connect, because if not, that Ewiz is just going to continuously defend against it.
Mega Knight down. Bandit goes across the board. Royal Ghost staying alive here. Samuel taking a moment here to figure out what he wants to do. Bar barrel down, lightning in. Ram Rider goes nowhere though as the Cannon Cart drops, and that feels like it's game over.
I mean, it's so hard to watch, right? When you think you have the push, and then you see all the little hoggies being spawned in by that Mother Witch, and everything just keeps getting distracted over and over and over again.
And that's going to set the line nice and easy. One more. Piggy goes ahead and gets a snack just for excellent good measure. GG, well played. Samuel Basoto takes game number 1 off of Dark Angel.
He sure does, and he's on his way to make history, right? We know that Samuel Basoto has done it before. He's won ladder, he's won CRL, but not that many people can say they've won a CRL match at a wedding before, so that's definitely something new.
Yeah, that's a nice celebration there, double celebration right now for Samuel Basoto. Big time win there in that one. And it's so interesting, right? You talk about those top tier players, those top tier ladder players. And, you always wonder in the past the level of versatility, and maybe that's been the knock on Samuel in the past, but it seems like he's really done a good job of adapting to becoming a more well-rounded player, much like a young man from Russia that you coached.
I don't know who you're talking about, but yeah, sure. Yeah, Igor definitely made that transition. And I think ladder players are just so talented. They have that one specific deck or archetype that they're really good with, but the mental fortitude to just keep going after a loss and, really get back into it. It helps them so much when they transition over to competitive. And Samuel is a great example of that.
So up 1 right now is Samuel Basoto. We'll see if we can get it done in the second one. Dark Angel with the Ram Rider deck. Not a lot of Ram Rider being played in the game overall right now. You take a look at that and you go Ram Rider, Lightning, Mega Knight. Not a very popular deck, but on the flip side of it, that does leave him with a wide variety of very central meta options as we go into games 2 and 3.
It does, and on the other side for Samuel, he used the E-Barbs and the Mother Witch, so that is no longer available to him for the rest of this set, and that's what Dark has to definitely, realize, okay, I can go Graveyard now, I can do Elite Barbs on the bridge more often. This is very, very good for Dark as a positive side to being down in the set.
So here we go, game number 2. Dark Angel
Yeah.
has a lot of work to do here.
He definitely, I think at this point, you just try and get one game in, right? Don't worry about winning the set right now. You haven't been playing at your best. It could be the nerves. It could be, you know, the rust from playing, not playing CRL for a while. Just try to get that one game win, get your confidence up, and then worry about game number 3.
And Dark Angel with the Dark Prince, which he did not run at all in his previous game, so...
Yeah, usually when we've seen Dark Prince in this meta, it has been more of an E-Giant deck, but this does not seem to be it, or at least not a variation that I know of.
Well, the Battle Healer, and usually she comes with a big pile of pink goo. We'll see if there is actually an Elixir Golem here. Interesting, Dark Prince, Battle Healer, Miner out of Dark Angel.
Yeah, this is not something that we're used to seeing, especially not this combination of troops, and not this witch, right? We're used to seeing a different kind of witch. Even the Night Witch we've seen a lot more, but this traditional OG type of witch is not something that we're very used to seeing, and even less in competitive.
I don't know what I'm looking at right now. Giant Miner, yeah, that's a combination that happens. Giant Miner Prince, or Dark Prince, sure, that happens. Classic Witch, Battle Healer. I mean, oh, you talk about that. It feels like those two cards in particular don't have a ton of synergy.
They definitely don't, because I don't really see anything that the healer is going to be healing, right? Yes, the giant, but overall it's just a very awkward push, and I'm not sure where this deck came from. I haven't seen it before. I've been casting a lot of competition, and I still, I'm a little bit shocked at this deck choice, especially considering that your CRL life is on the line, but maybe he surprises us and really shows us, look, this is a new style of playing, this is a new deck archetype, and it really works.
Dark Angel trying to become the first player to win a CRL match, pressing the random deck button. We'll see if he does actually get that one done here.
And he's gonna need to have that zap, because if not, he's just gonna continuously really get that giant melted down from the Inferno Dragon. A nice graveyard here just to, you know, start that push, start that little pressure, and the Valk moving on up, he needs to be careful. There it is.
Yeah, that forced out the Miner, so Valk goes all the way inside. No significant damage here, not much separating these two. 2275 on the left-hand side for Dark Angel to the 2327. Poison taking that down a little bit further. So Dark Angel will take control of the lead here for the time being, as we are just 15 seconds away from sudden death.
And who would have thought, right? You have a Miner, Dark Prince, Battle Healer, Mega Minion on the bridge, and you're actually taking the lead with that. And it goes to show, look, you can be creative and have a chance at winning. So it's not all about just using the decks that you see all the time. He hasn't won yet, though, and these pushes could get a little bit tricky. I'd like to see him over defend here. This is nice. Just make sure you don't lose the tower. You don't take way too much damage. And he's going to have to figure out a way to take care of this Inferno Dragon, possibly with the zap here.
And a second giant down on the left-hand side. A bit of an overwhelm coming in right now from Dark Angel against Samuel Basoto running. We haven't talked about how strange this deck is. A graveyard triple spell with arrows, poison, and tornado. And that's going to be a Dark Prince connection on the right-hand side. Miner goes into predict. Doesn't matter. Yeah. What are we seeing here, Eric?
We're seeing a win for Dark Angel, and I mean, look, whatever works, the important thing is you get that win. And really, another positive thing to look at here is he still has Mother Witch Elite Barbs available to him for that third game, which is the biggest positive and the best cards in this meta right now.
I mean, just what are we looking at here? Giant Miner, longtime archetype, Witch, a card that, you know, you rarely see even crack the 6K mark on ladder, much less into competitive play since the Witch meta of old. And comes out great with it. Dark Angel, lots of tools here defensively for this graveyard. And as you said, over defend and turn into a really nasty counter push.
It worked out very well, and you could tell that this wasn't just kind of a last minute pick on this deck. He knows how to use it. He has practiced this. This is not a deck that's easy to work with because of how many different interactions. And yeah, good for him.
I love the emote we just saw from Samuel, the frustrated goblin,
yeah,
the annoyed goblin, because who could have possibly, I don't care what analysts you had built up. I want to go and check out Dark Angel's profile and see if he's run this thing, because it is absolutely nuts.
There is no analyst, no coach in the world that could have predicted that, especially in an elimination match. And you know, you put in a lot of work to analysis. You have these coaching staffs. He has the analyst that used to work with Liquid in that World Championship team as well. And look, it's just not on paper. It doesn't exist. I don't even think anyone used this deck ever. So it is what it is. You need to get your head back in the game. That's over with, and now you might see something you're more comfortable with. It's 1-1, and man, whoever loses this is going home.
It's official. Dark Angel, the first player to go to TV Royale, choose Arena 5 and copy a deck and win with it. So very well played for Dark Angel. Here we go. Game number 3. Samuel going with at least Skeleton Barrel. We'll see if this is a double bait variation. And yep, as you called, Eric, right into a Mother Witch.
Right into a Mother Witch, and this is what we didn't see in the last time we saw bait, right? That Mother Witch wasn't coming down against those Skeleton Barrels, and it wasn't spawning in all those Hoggies. But this is a good start for Dark Angel, and it's great to have that available to you in the third game of this set.
Skeleton Dragon does get one shot on the right-hand side. Slight lead for Dark Angel at the moment, and I'm trying to scroll through his account right now, and I am not seeing that deck anywhere. So maybe he's been playing it on one of his minis, whatever it might be. But that deck we just saw from Dark Angel, yeah, there's really no way anyone was prepared for that.
Absolutely, and this is a very, very good start for Dark Angel here. He has Log, he has the Mother Witch, even has Electro Spirit, which can also save you at the time of not having the right cycle and a Skelly Barrel coming in. We know that takes care of 9 Skellies, so it's looking all up for him right now.
Looking very nice for him at the moment, and you see Skeleton Dragons going opposite direction, nothing to pick them up, so just going to have to go ahead and eat the damage and defend with the Dark Goblin. Fireball cleans that off. 1477 remaining as we pass the midway point of regulation time.
I'm trying to look at Samuel here and see how he can get rid of this, but this deck actually cycles just as quickly as his does. So that's the problem. Usually when you have bait, you say, okay, I'm gonna outcycle him at some point here, but with the Skellies, Log, Electro Spirit, it's so hard to actually get him out of rotation.
A lot of damage on that right-hand side. Samuel Basoto not all the way behind, and Royal Giant does get dropped now as we get closer to double elixir time.
And if I'm not
go ahead, Eric.
If I'm not mistaken, this is Sam's deck. So I'm curious to see. A lot of people put this on Twitter the other day. I'm not sure if it was yesterday or the day before. Sam was actually using this deck on ladder, and it looks to be very, very strong.
The Royal Giant deck, you mean?
Yes.
Samuel Basoto maybe getting a little bit of cheek out of Dark Angel after the meme deck almost in game number 2, and now getting his own deck against him here in game number 3. 931 to 1501. Log not going to be here on that defense, but defending with troops. Mother Witch, Skeleton Dragons, this is going to be real nasty here for Samuel.
He needs to be very, very careful at this point, because every time he pushes, he needs to understand that there's going to be Hoggies coming out because of the Mother Witch, and that forces out early defenses, which end up working in Dark Angel's favor. So everything has to be very, very calculated, and he does have Log for this push if he does need it. He didn't have it in the previous one.
Skeleton Dragons high this time. No Log, goes with Mother Witch, and that's a lot of damage Dark Angel's in here.
It's not, you need to be very careful. I understand what he's trying to do, right? You want to spawn all those Hoggies, but you need to be very, very aware of how much damage you're going to take if you do that. And I don't know if it was the right decision there.
So this time that will turn into a whole lot of Hogs. 382. Dark Goblin trying to hold on against it. That will turn into one more Hog there for Dark Angel. And this time the Log in cycle. Samuel has to control that Night Witch, or that Mother Witch, up high as we go into the final 90 seconds.
The only thing working to Dark Angel's advantage right now is the fact that there is no big spell, but he needs to be careful with one of those princesses on the bridge. Always needs to have a troop on the field, because if he can just get one princess connection, it could be all over for him.
And it spends the elixir on the Goblin Barrel, nothing for the Inferno Tower, and that's GG. Dark Angel sends Samuel Basoto home early, or not home, back to the wedding.
Yeah.
GG.
I mean, I guess that's the good side for Samuel. Look, you're not going home. You're at your brother's wedding. It's still a happy day. Usually when you lose, you kind of just have to sit there. I lived for a lot of those losses during CRL, and you know what? You're just thinking, what did I do wrong? He at least will get his mind off things. And Dark Angel definitely came in with a good strategy after going down in game number 1.
Yeah, I mean, game number 2 was fantastic, was shocking, was many different things. This is the play I'm a little bit surprised here, though. Or maybe it's the play right after this one. It's the next Goblin Barrel that comes in. The RG is coming through, and he played the Goblin Barrel just moments before this and did not have the elixir for the Inferno Tower.
It seems like Samuel was a little bit off on what he thought was in cycle for Dark Angel, because it was pretty clear that there was a log in hand. So that barrel really wasn't going to do much, and then it forces you to defend at a lower cost. I'm not sure why he did that. It happened to him in his first match as well. It could just be a little bit of the distraction on his personal life things, but he just seemed a little bit off today.
Well, not off at the moment. Dark Angel moving on in this lower bracket, keeping his lifeline going. And that's going to be a big one for him, right? That's not just a big win for him, but a little extra money on top of that, not to mention those points. Samuel Basoto now, with him going out and Morten having won his matchup, it is official. At the end of this weekend, Morten is going to be the #1 on our leaderboards for the World Championship.
And I think he definitely deserves to be there. Such a consistent player. But what I want to touch on really quick before moving on to the next topic is what you said about Dark Angel. This is key for him. Dark Angel is not someone like Samuel, Igor, Anaban who consistently plays top 3 on ladder, right? And secure all those points. These points are crucial for him if he wants to get to that World Championship at the end of the year.
And here we go. This is that second game where Dark Angel comes out with Giant Miner. Yeah, that's a thing. Giant Miner Poison. That's Goizen. It's been a thing for a long time. Witch Battle Healer. And we were talking about whether that Battle Healer was a factor. What the heck is a Witch doing anywhere near Clash Royale League? And turned out to be just a brutal situation for Samuel.
It seems like, looking at this deck, if I was dreaming, I would be, telling production, hey, you put the wrong deck up, you put the wrong, but this is actually the deck he used, and I cannot believe it. And look, it worked, and I'm very happy because this might spark a little more creativity and risk in the players. And for us watching and the spectators at home, I think it's a lot of fun.
Well, it has been a pretty varied day overall meta-wise. We have not seen players going to the exact same thing over and over again, as we look at the decks from game number 3 here as well. And, the double bait out of Samuel Basoto and then Dark Angel running Samuel's deck against him. This has been a pretty varied one. You have to wonder how much of it is just the new meta, how much of it is people taking risks, how much of it is people doing some more opposition research. Either way, it's been a compelling selection of decks today.
Yeah, and I put you in a wrong position. When I meant Sam, I meant your co-caster Sam, Chop Cham, or OP Sam, not Samuel exactly. But yeah, that deck is actually very strong, and I'm surprised we haven't seen it more. Yesterday and the day before, I saw a lot of players use it on ladder, and usually that translates well into competition. So I'm curious to see, and congratulations to Dark on moving on.
Yeah, Dark Angel moves on. He will be facing the loser of Rad versus Sandbox, Morten, awaiting whoever falls between Ta and Schwarzen, who we'll be going to see in just a little bit here. And again, reminder that the players on the lower bracket, they have no more lives to give. They are in elimination mode right now. In the upper bracket, where we're going to be heading in just a moment, those players still have a life to give. So Morten and Dark Angel awaiting who they'll be facing for elimination. Ta, Schwarzen, Rad, and Sandbox all trying to move on to that winner's bracket final, and more importantly, preserve that extra life as the losers will go down and face some stiff competition.
And I think if I'm Dark right now, I'm rooting for Sandbox because that first match was brutal, and to face him again early on, I don't want to see it. So if I'm in Dark's position, you know what, Sandbox, you beat me. Applause to you. Keep moving on. Give me Rad, and let me try to get a little further in this competition, rack up some more points, and maybe meet you in a finals.
Yeah, it's always a big question of who you want to see at what point, and of course every single match between the points and those and the money matters so much. So at this stage, it's all very critical. Up here on the top, we're going to be going into our first of our winners bracket semifinals. The unknown player, if you're into the Japanese semi-pro scene, you might know Ta. If you're on the Western side, the four of us, very unfamiliar with him, up against a longtime guy who was one of the top semi-pro players for years, finally turned into the pro scene last year in Schwarzen.
I absolutely love this format, man. To be here on the semifinals of the winner side of this bracket and see this matchup, Ta versus Schwarzen here, it's so nice to see, right? Because it really goes to show that all you need is yourself, your level, your skill, and to really believe and put forth the effort, and you could be here in CRL.
And we've seen someone every single month who's made that leap and gotten to this stage. What we haven't seen yet is someone really making a big threatening run at the top. So Ta, the number 8 seed, but the first one to get that first round win, and coming out with the Electro Dragon, not very often seen these days.
Not at all, but Look, I'm not going to talk about decks anymore after Dark Angel just won that matchup. So, you know what? Go for it. Let's see how it goes. And he has to be feeling confident, right? After you beat Morden here, that no one really expected it, and is by most considered the best player in the world, or at least consistency-wise, you have to be feeling good.
You know, you talk about how annoying E-Barbs are right now, and what we are seeing, one feature of the Elite Barbarian Rise is it seems like the Elite Barbarian Rise is finally the true punishment answer to Lava or Golem first play.
It definitely is. What you have to realize on the Lava side is, can you take that damage, and is my Lava deck strong enough to come back and take the tower and then try to figure out how I'm going to win the 2-tower game? And it definitely was. I think it was a little bit of an overcommit from Schwarzen here to use that Goblin Giant in the middle. It just wasn't necessary, right? At that point, you could just defend. You don't need to take both towers at the same time.
Still does have the lead, the German, 1538 on the Princess Tower of Ta and 2100 on the King Tower, where right now the King Tower and Princess Tower of Schwarzen are pretty evened up. But there's a significant elixir advantage right now for the Japanese player, and he's going to pile up here behind this Lava Hound.
And the problem is you don't see a punish here, right? You don't see that same Elite Barbarians being able to punish, and now he's forced to use those minions. Good dragon here, and look, we haven't seen it that much, but it is very, very effective when you have a Prince on the other side.
And the Inferno Dragon does stay alive a little bit longer, forces out the E-Wiz, but defense done for the German here. 40 seconds left in regulation time. And it's still, though, it's the elixir advantage going towards Todd.
Todd definitely has to control this match. He just needs to be very careful when he decides to Lava. You know that he got punished on the first push, and he knows it as well. That's why you don't see him just try to stick in a Lava in front of that Inferno Dragon right away, because he doesn't want to lose the match on a counter.
Inferno Dragon and Electro Dragon both running away from that Goblin Giant right now, and you have Skeleton Dragons as the response. They're going to be now under 800 HP, 700 HP on that left-hand lane. Can Ta capitalize on this moment right here?
And it seems to be an all or nothing at this point, right? 700 on your own tower. You have a little bit of trouble defending that Goblin Giant, so he needs to continue to pressure. He cannot allow any more pushes coming out, and that connects the Elite Barbarian. The one Elite Barbarian, 1 HP is 400 damage on the tower, just about.
Here we go, sudden death, overtime, 382, and now you see Inferno Dragon setting up left-hand lane rather than right-hand lane. Rage in on the Goblin Giant. No way to stop this unless you have enough DPS for it, and it's not going to be enough. Damage in, 42 HP, and wow, you probably got to wave that off right here. Schwarzen punishing hard, but can he hold off long enough here to finish off the game?
Yeah, it's just one more defense, man, and that's all you need to do. I'm expecting something to go down here. I'm not sure really what's going on. He waited a lot with that. He knew he had the game won. I'm not sure if he was just toying a little bit there, but it got a little dicey at the end. Yeah,
it felt like that zap, I mean, I thought that zap was closer in cycle or could have gotten out more quickly. I don't know if he had a 9th card there in the way of the zap in cycle, what it might have been, but able to get around. And this was it. This was the opening moment, right? Lava Hound didn't open Lava Hound, but pretty close to. Immediate E-Barb's punish opposite lane, and here's what he was going for. Here's why he dropped it, because he had E-Barb's Goblin Giant. Might as well throw the Rage on there, and in the end, he didn't get punished too bad for it.
He didn't, because he was able to still, build those counters. He waited every time for the Lava before he pushed, and that was very smart out of him. Obviously, Josh touched on it early on in the stream today, that he plays every deck and he practices so much, and it's showing here. We've seen him play so many different archetypes at the highest level, understanding every matchup, and he's in a very, very good position at this point.
And you see the fist pump there because he knew it was a foot race at the end. And I would love to see his personal view of what he was trying to do to get back to that zap, because it felt like it could have gotten out a bit earlier. No, it doesn't matter either way. Does get the zap down, does get the win. And that is now we're going to match point here for Schwarzen.
And I love to see, like you said, that fist pump, the emotion come out. He knows he's one win away from moving on and securing a lot of points, a lot of money. What is he going to come out with now? He didn't really use a lot of those cards that we've been seeing today. So a lot of possibilities still in his hand.
Well, you also think about it from the other side, right? With the Electro Dragon being mixed in for the Lava Hound deck. So, you know, the one thing that's nice about Lava Hound and why it's popular in the meta is there's not a lot of crossover where you burn cards you want for other decks, right? So very curious for Ta, especially now adding in the Electro Dragon, what he comes out with in game number 2.
He could also be adding that in because he wants to save the flying machine, maybe go into one of those fireball bait decks, right? The MK with the Hoggies flying machine, which is very, very strong. And Bomber coming out first here. So another card that's not going to take the space out of one of those main meta cards right now.
Also, keeping in mind the guards in last game here for Ta. So a lot of options here for the player making his biggest. This is his biggest moment in his Clash Royale career by far.
Yeah, and I think right now you just need to, if you're Ta, understand, look, this isn't an elimination match. Let me continue to play the same way I just played against Morten. Stay calm. You are down in the set, but this isn't it for you. If anything goes wrong here, you still have a chance. So go all out. Play your game, and really this deck is a strong deck that we've seen over and over again.
Yeah, that synergy between the Electro Giant and the Tornado able to pull. It's so funny, the Tornado to pull troops closer to your troop as opposed to pull them away.
It's awesome seeing new mechanics into a game, right? Because we've been so used to for so many years seeing that NATO be played. We've seen so many predicts, right, to move the troops to the other lane across the arena, and now it's, can I get all of them close enough to where the Electro Giant takes care of them? And the only problem I have here is that Goblin Cage is a very, very good defense for the E-Giant, especially when you have an Ice Wizard. And they're both gonna have the same type of defense, but the DPS is a lot stronger with that regular Prince.
Yeah, Classic Prince versus Dark Prince, and not a lot of splashy troops that are targeted for that Bomber. So we'll see if that Bomber ends up being a factor here. It does cycle fairly quickly now at 2 Elixir rather than 3 after the most recent change. And a Lightning there defensively out of top.
Yeah, I think he realized that it was either that or take a lot of damage, and those Lightnings are going to be very key in this matchup. If you misuse one of them, and this deck is so heavy, 6 Elixir misuse could be the reason you lose. So everything needs to be very, very calculated, especially with this type of deck.
High Goblin Cage here against the Electro Giant, pulling that EG all the way across, and Ice Wiz is in both directions here, but this should work out with the better for Ta in this moment. And now the offensive Lightning trying to make some room.
It's gonna be a battle, a slow battle, right? Those Ice Wiz always make everything very, very slow, and on top of that, it has to make its way all the way to the Goblin Cage. So this is just gonna be back and forth Lightning battle, bridge battles, and it's gonna be who can get that one little hit from the E-Giant or cycle 2 of them before his opponent can actually get one down.
Schwartzen sets up Electro Giant behind King Tower, an immediate aggressive response out of his opponent. Ta trying to put that Electro Giant on roller skates doesn't happen. As the Dark Prince does get a splash though on that left hand side.
Yeah, and that splash is key in a matchup where the difference has been 50 HP on the towers and nothing has really been able to hit. They both have the same spells, they both have the same archetype, so when you can get that extra 400 damage on, it's a big deal.
Dark Prince for the Classic Prince. Cage trying to hold on here. Good Lightning. Electro Giant, though, does not get the tower. 2063 to 2074. Talk about 50 HP. We are separated by 11 now with less than a minute and a half remaining.
And I need to see Ta here get a little bit more aggressive. If he gets over defensive, he will lose this match. You saw the Lightning come in. It was the last push out of Schwartzen that got some damage in. And usually when you see that, you want the other player to start getting into his offensive cycle because they're switching off cycles. What happened here was he kept defending, and now it's again an even matchup. Schwartzen can defend here and then go on a counter. So I need to see him get a little bit more aggressive when he has the chance.
And that Lightning not going to do very much there for Ta. You talk about the misplay, the misspent Lightning there, Eric. That one just gets the Goblin Cage and Goblin Brawler. That might be the one.
Yeah, 6 Elixir is so crucial here, and that Lightning is a lot better because it forces out a Dark Prince. On top of the damage it got, now he doesn't have that for the offense. And again, the Lightning just hitting one thing. If that Lightning hit the Prince, it would have been a different story, but it looks like Ta will lose to Lightning at this point.
Here we go, final 25 seconds. Very, very close between these two. Electro Giants in both directions, but it's looking like the possibility, no, NATO does pull Electro Giant back here on Ta's side, and now it's Lightning Cycle in both directions. Now keep in mind here, Eric, that Ta does currently have the damage lead in this Lightning Cycle situation. NATO does pull back, does not get the splash damage for the Baby Dragon. defense here with the Ice Wiz. Final 4 seconds. NATO gives just a slight lead here.
Wow.
Schwarzen can't get it down, and that is going to be so crazy close. That is just 37 HP, the win for Ta.
And you saw that elixir bar at the top, right? It was already past the 5 elixir. It was in between 5 and 6. The lightning is an instant spell as well. So you know that hurts if you're on Schwarzen's side. But great play at the end to get that NATO win. And really, you know, good thing they changed that NATO to actually do damage, because if not, it wasn't looking great.
What a crazy finish here. Here we go. The final 10 seconds one more time. You can see the slight lead here for Ta, despite some of the errant lightning play. And if that baby dragon had splashed, we would have been looking at a different story here in the end, but just misses by a hair. And that's 37 HP that Schwarzen would really like back.
That was a very good play out of Schwarzen. It just didn't work out as he had it in mind. That NATO, he knew that he needed that little extra damage because, like you said earlier on, he was outcycled. It was Ta that had the spells in hand before him. So it was a good attempt. It was maybe, what, a millisecond away from actually hitting. I don't know why I was going milliliter, because that has nothing to do with it. But at the end of the day, Ta making a name for himself this CRL.
Yeah, I mean, look, the first 8th seed to do anything of significance here on these championship weekends. So very well played for him so far. Of course, a win here in Game 3 would be absolutely massive if he can do it. Now, keeping in mind here, Eric, as we go into Game number 3 in a moment, that looking at the spells that have been used so far, we just saw a lightning versus lightning battle. We talked about some of the stuff that was saved in Game number 1. No fireballs used yet, and no poisons used yet. So it becomes kind of a really weird, almost guessing game of which direction you go.
I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, they have Mother Witch available, so I wouldn't go Graveyard right now. I think it's a very risky play. We've seen it go up against the Mother Witch, and it never does well. What I'm curious to see is if anyone is going to pull out that Mega Knight Hoggies Fireball bait. I haven't seen it, and it's actually a very strong deck right now.
That would be not surprising here from the German, but looks like they're going small on both sides instead.
They definitely are. We've seen a lot of bait today. Very curious to see. It is a risk, like I said, against that Mother Witch, especially when you have those Spear Goblins and Bats. We saw it not work out well last time the player had that. The Mother Witch does get a lot of value and a good delivery coming out.
Yeah, that's a very nice delivery. So interesting, Schwarzen going with a similar direction that we saw Morten go in earlier on the day. It was against a Mother Witch, but very different look this time. A bait variant out of Ta, double bait here. And you see the Princess setting up on defense. And Schwarzen does get the nice fireball.
Nice fireball and not a bad Ice Spirit. It's obviously a little bit hard to time it to where it gets a lot of skellies, but he got the majority of them, mitigated the damage, and now he's going in aggressive again. You know Schwarzen has that log in this deck, so not all that bad, and this is going to be a very back and forth type of match.
So you talk about the different defensive responses for Schwarzen against Ta here. You know, he would love to get that fireball or the miner on the Princess fairly consistently. Log being used primarily for the Goblin Barrel, and is this going to be the idea for the Skeleton Barrel, trying to pull, but unfortunately missing it here?
Yeah, he missed it, and it forces out the Ice Spirit, but that Ice Spirit is most likely always going to still allow Ta to get 1 or 2 hits from him, and this is very smart out of Ta. Get that that Goblin Barrel in, even though you know that it's not going to do damage, because now it forces out a defense onto the Princess. The Valk has to go on the bridge, and it gives you free elixir trade here with that Dark Goblin.
And look at the Skarmy surround to protect the Dark Goblin here. So you don't see, again, we're talking about cards that we don't typically think of as major CRL cards, Skeleton Army being one of them, and now we've seen it a couple of times today.
What a great push. Yeah, and that was just so smart from Ta, right? It all started with that Princess on the bridge. It forced out the Valk, then it gave him the Dark Goblin, and it's the same rotation we're seeing here again. Then he went in with the Knight, the Skarmy, forced out a log, and he got the push that he wanted.
Here we go, final 30 seconds of regulation time. Again, just forcing out that log, forcing out all the responses here on the right-hand side, but Dark Goblin still alive, and elixir advantage, big elixir advantage for the moment for the Japanese player. High with the Inferno Tower, and fireball value will come in, but right now, things looking very good for Ta as we approach sudden death.
I would like to see Todd continue to pressure here, get that same rotation over and over again. You're winning the game right now. You don't have a big spell. That's the only thing you need to worry about. That log comes in and it will actually take care of both barrels. And right now it's looking a little bit more scary for Todd because you see Schwarzen slowly start controlling this game a little bit more.
Fireball to the Princess one more time. Dart Goblin immediately behind it. Skeleton Barrel not going to get very far against those bats. And log does come down. Easy counter here. Princess, again, the log does not get bridge princesses anymore when you go ahead and get that Goblin Barrel. So rough moment there for Schwarzen.
Very smart play out of him. That is the equivalent of a minor chip for these bait decks, right? When you get those princess hits on the tower, he knew the spear goblins were close enough and that he probably wasn't going to expect him to drop the princess at that point. No log here, so he needs to over defend or try and defend with the spirit. And again, the chip from the princess.
Wow. Oh wow, princess gets on tower, and that ice spirit gonna reset it here for a moment. Keep in mind, no direct damage spell, so Todd does have to get on tower in some way to finish this thing off. Log gonna come out in response to that Goblin Barrel. Schwarzen trying to hold on the best that he can. Valk down, can he get the Inferno Tower to pull? Yes, he does. And now it's just a question of how long can Schwarzen play these defenses and put damage on, holding on to just 26 HP.
Look, if he comes back from this 26 HP, it'll be a comeback for the books because yes, he has no spell, but to hold on 26 HP is not easy at all. But slowly he's making it happen, right? He needs to be very calculated. Not one Skelly can hit, no princess chip like it happened before, and he's running out of time also. He needs to get damage. It's not all about defending.
Oh, thought for a second Schwarzen might pull off the troop defense, doesn't get it done. Very unhappy. And look at that, the 8th seed, the unheralded unknown player, now moving on to our winners bracket final after a brilliant game of double bait.
Is this a reverse caster's curse? Right at the beginning, Andrew said the 8th seed has never won a set. Well, look, I'm not only going to win one set, I'm winning 2.
This is really great stuff, and there was this is the sequence that totally changed everything. This ended up being a possible game for Schwarzen to stay in. Here's the big question, though, Eric. We've seen it a couple times today, and if you go and ask the all-time minor great, one of the top minor players in history, B-Rad, he'll probably still tell you that minor control is not super viable right now. This is the second time today that we've seen a pure minor control deck.
It is not as viable as it used to be. 100%. You're right, especially with the amount of bait that we've seen today. If you go into the overall meta and what you're seeing on ladder, it might be a little bit better just because we've seen a lot more RGs, we've seen a lot more Mega Knights, but the way that this CRL is panning out, there is a lot of bait, and that Inferno Tower is not going to do much for you.
So here we go. Talk about unconventional choices. Ta in game number 1 going Electro Dragon and guards, in not to mention Fisherman, into this minor into this lava minor deck, and getting beaten here by Schwarzen as he gets the high pressure on the right hand side. But you know, the big one is, do you get the overall match victory? And Schwarzen gets the game victory here in game number 1, but as things went on, Ta continued to put on some pretty surprising and very calculated performances.
I'm so excited, really. I love to see that Ta is moving on here. Nothing against Schwarzen here, but it's just a story, right? With the dark horse, the one that no one really knew coming in. I remember in the qualifiers, I saw his name and I'm like, does anyone actually know who this is? And no one in my chat was able to tell me. And look, after today, everyone knows who Ta is.
Yeah, and this was the close one, right? This was the big deciding factor. It felt like Ta's lightning play might have been a little bit over-aggressive, a couple lightnings that hit 1 or 2 targets, but in the end, it became down to a spell cycle race and an Electro Giant battle, and Ta able to win that one by just 37 HP and get the big-time victory, setting up this game number 3, where arguably I would say the best gameplay we've seen from him today.
Absolutely, and on the previous match, you know Schwarzen is going to be replaying that baby dragon not splashing onto tower, but this time around in the 3rd match, I think Ta had full control at all times. He definitely is a great bait player after watching this, and I would not mind to see him continue to use this style deck.
It worked out very well for him here, and he'll have, of course, at least 2 more matches because he stays in the upper bracket, stays with that 1 life to give. His opponent, though, Schwarzen, will drop down into the lower bracket. You see Ta now moving on, getting the win. He'll await the winner of Rad and Sandbox. As we look down in the lower bracket here, you see Schwarzen not eliminated, still does have 1 life to give. He will face Dark Angel tomorrow. Morton also waiting down there. We could have a German versus German battle if both he and Morton do win tomorrow when they make their elimination games. But coming up right now, it's going to be Rad versus Sandbox. The winner will go on and face Ta in the winner's bracket final. The loser will have to face Morton in what will be a very challenging matchup.
Yeah, especially Morton coming off a win like that, you know he's feeling good, and I would not want to be the player that faces him tomorrow. But like you said, it could be a German versus German overall down below on the lower side of the bracket. And on top, we see CRL East is dominating this time around. This finals at the top is going to be a guaranteed CRL East finals.
Yeah, that's so interesting, right? I was about to say the same thing, that in the last 2 seasons of CRL from team play, the East struggled when we got to the international stage, right? Whether it's World Cyber Games, World Finals 2019 or 2020. But so far in this individual format, we have seen a huge representation from the East. What are your thoughts on why that is, Eric?
It could be the way the meta is shifting right now. It could be the style, or it just could be the amount of practice that they're putting in. Also, we do know Sandbox was not eligible to play last CRL. He wasn't old enough. So new players coming in, and obviously the presence of someone like Ruben not at the top of his game is going to affect West. He was the best representation of West for the past couple of years.
So here we go, our last match of the day, winners bracket semi-final, Rad and Sandbox. Is it possible that we will have a double CRL rookie matchup in our winners bracket final, or will Rad keep the CRL vets in the running with a win here over the South Korean?
For all us OGs of the CRL, we definitely would like to see Rad, but after watching that first game from Sandbox, it definitely doesn't seem like he's a rookie at all.
No, definitely Sandbox playing very, very well here so far. So here we go into game number 1 of this matchup. Tribe Gaming versus Fav Gaming, Sandbox versus Rad, and opening up with Zappies on both sides.
And recruits go down right as we start here, and this is going to be possibly a mirror match. It could be that Bait versus Bait. It could also have Mega Knight on one side. There is the Mega Knight on the top side.
And you think of a player like Sandbox, Eric, who might be a rookie to CRL overall, but not a rookie competitively, does have lots of experience outside of CRL, including a very nice performance in the Royal Crown Cup back in 2019, where his team took 3rd place. So definitely has been around competing for a while. It's just eventually you have to make that jump into pros, and here we're seeing it on the biggest stage in a pretty big moment.
You sure are, and you could also probably see him posting on Twitter his #1 on ladder throughout the season. He's usually competing for that top spot, and obviously we've talked about it before. Ladder is a great bridge to this competitive scene. It builds a lot of, you know, mental fortitude, and it's showing off here for Sandbox in his rookie debut.
So Electro Spirit on the side of Rad and Mega Knight on the side of Sandbox. So maybe seeing a little bit of variation from these 2 different directions.
Yeah, you're seeing a little bit of a difference here. The Mother Witch already coming down, and actually that Mother Witch can get a lot of value on the recruits. It's a lot of troops that are going down, especially with those Zappies behind it. Both choosing a completely, it is the same archetype, but it's so different to play both of these decks and the style. So Sandbox, in my opinion, if he can wait for recruits to go down and then Mega Knight, he has a great advantage.
So here we go, double elixir time on its way. Mother Witch sets up on the back left-hand side for Sandbox. Rad fireballs that one immediately. Flying Machine does get picked up by the Barb Barrel.
And that timing is not easy, man. To make sure that the Flying Machine crosses the bridge, gets on the Princess target, and then still get the Barb Barrel in time before it targets your tower is not easy at all.
Yeah, no, that's actually a microsecond transaction to get that actual pickup for the Barb Barrel against the Flying Machine for a full counter. Does a nice job here. Mega Knight in on the left-hand side for these recruits. E-Barb's behind, so Elite Barbarians, if you haven't seen them yet, they will show up somewhere.
And it's the scariest card in the game right now. Those Huggies are going to go straight onto the tower because that Goblin Cage had to go down early. And that is good damage, especially in a match that's this close. The Elite Barbarian getting 1 hit, maybe 2. He got away with only 1 hit.
16:31 left-hand tower as we go into sudden death overtime. The angry emote out from Rad, and maybe that was Air Surfer watching in the wings there. You saw the golden piggy emote, which he's known for.
Yeah, and it's gonna be very, very tough. He's on the back foot now, and when you have a Mega Knight and you have to use the recruits to defend it over and over again, now it frees up space for the Elite Barbarians, and that could very well be the key to this game. If he can get another set of Elite Barbarians on the bridge and force out extra defense that will allow his Hoggies free passage onto that tower, it could be it.
Log was trying to create enough room for that flying machine, but the Zappies come in the middle, and now Piggy's one more time to the left-hand side. Goblin Cage in response. Fireball has to go to the flying machine here, so those Piggies will get a little bit of snout work on the left-hand side and continue to open up that lead. Now going to be 12-23 to 20-94 as he goes a 3-3 split at the bridge.
And all I have to say here is if this is his rookie way of playing, I am so scared to see him over the time, over years, possibly with CRL, because he's playing so well. All his pushes are so calculated. A little bit of a miss on the flying machine, but it's not really going to affect much.
Did get the Royal Hog, so that isn't the worst play for the Fireball ever. It wasn't a 0 Fireball, but of course did leave that flying machine on the board, as my co-host said. Here we go, final minute of gameplay. Triple Elixir on its way. Rad starting to put some real pressure on the board.
He definitely is, and he's playing very, very well. He started going a little bit more aggressive. At the beginning, he was over-defending a little bit. He realized, look, if I continue to go down this path, there is no shot I win this. And that Elite Barbarian is getting so much damage.
Flying machine in the middle, working on one Zappy, now working on the Mother Witch. Gonna get the Mother Witch down before she turns anything into Piggies. Nope, does get one, and now a 2-2 split here. Interesting choice out of Rad, goes 2-2. Piggies on the left-hand side, 1178 is the mark he has to beat. Fireball comes down, not gonna happen. Sandbox comes out with a big win here in game number 1.
And he's looking like he's playing perfectly. I did not really see any mistakes. Like we said, that Fireball, it could have seen like he missed it, but at the end of the day, he got all 4 Hoggies, and I think he just put it slightly left to see if by chance it would hit the flying machine, but it just wasn't in the radius. And at the end of the day, he knew exactly when to defend, how to defend, and when it was time to really put on those Elite Barbarians on the bridge and full force forward.
Fireball, you saw that in on the left-hand side, and this was that moment where you see Rad get really frustrated as that Elite Barbarian did connect, and that felt like it was the one that maybe made this one stay outside of winnable range.
Yeah, and look, I'm not really sure what you have to do at this point to beat Sandbox, because he is feeling it right now. This is perfect gameplay. We've seen it in past months. There have been a couple of players that come out this hot, and when they do, we usually see them go all the way towards the end. And I'm curious to see what Sandbox is going to play next. We've seen him use a whole different bunch of decks, and he's a very versatile player, which makes him even more difficult to play against.
Well, it's feeling like the one way to beat Sandbox might be to throw sand in his face. So, unfortunately, I think they're separated by a little bit too much distance for Rad, so he'll have to do it just with some gameplay. Rad, so here in game number 1, Rad coming out with this this Royal Hogs, Fireball, you know, but he already did see the Mother Witch. So if you're from on Rad's side of things, what are you preparing for now in game number 2, knowing you're not worried about the Mother Witch and you're not worried about Elite Barbarians?
I think the strongest deck at this point without Mother Witch or Elite Barbarians is that E-Giant deck, right? You have to be prepared for it. You at least have to have a thought in your mind that it could be that. And on the other end, you know that there is no Mother Witch, so you can go Graveyard if you feel comfortable with it. Now is a good time to do it.
It does seem like Graveyard might be the deck between the existence of Mother Witch and just overall meta switch, that Graveyard is the archetype that went from number 1 and maybe had the biggest fall going into this monthly final.
It definitely was the deck that everyone, you know, it was in everything. Before, at the beginning, when we saw Graveyard, it used to be a splash yard deck. You know what you were going to get. It was going to be Baby Dragon, Ice Wiz, NATO, and that Graveyard. It ended up being in Mortar decks. Mortar, Cannon Card, Graveyard. It was all over the place, and it did take a back seat now that the Mother Witch is part of this big meta.
So here we go, game number 2, Sandbox with match point and a chance to go to that winner's bracket final against Ta, and this would be, I mean, nothing short of historical to have 2 rookies as the winner's bracket final, one of them guaranteed to be in the overall monthly championship.
And if that doesn't motivate you to, you know, really get down, practice, and make a stand in this CRL as a rookie, I don't know what will. This is exactly why we all love this format and why we were so excited for this year.
So going to be a bait variation here out of Sandbox, setting up, and oh, looking like, man, the Skarmy is just so fascinating. This is a fun weekend, Eric, to see so much stuff that, I mean, we saw Witch today. We saw Witch. Just want to say that one more time.
Yeah, we definitely did see Witch, and it's not the Mother Witch or the Night Witch. It is the regular old, the one that you used to get in the first chest ever that you opened, right? You were hoping that it was either the Prince or the Witch. And yeah, we saw it today, and I did not expect to see this much Skarmy or bait. I really didn't.
Balloon does not connect, will get death damage, and death damage on that Princess as well, but she does survive because that bomb not so powerful these days. 2021 on the left-hand side, and Sandbox just putting more pressure on. And this, you see, talked about this beforehand in a very similar matchup. This time arrows, though, being used for the Goblin Barrel, but Zap nowhere for that Skeleton Barrel.
I know you can't see my face right now, and no one really can. I'm a Lava player, and as soon as I saw the beginning of this match, it is looking very, very, very tough. You can't use the Zap on the Infernal Tower because then he's gonna Skelly Barrel, Goblin Barrel your tower, and you don't have anything to deal with it. You have Princess, so building a push is gonna be so tough for him that he might actually, I was just about to say, go Barb's Loon as his only choice.
Barb's in, protecting the Loon. Skeleton Dragons come behind. Balloon is going to get a connection on this right-hand side. No, Inferno Tower gets down just in time.
Yeah, it got a connection, just not on the tower he was hoping for, right? It went onto that Infernal Tower. It is a lot of damage, so what he needs to realize now is this is the push that's going to get me damage. If I put down that lava, all I'm going to do is give up way too much elixir. It's not going to work out for me, and that Princess is actually going to hit tower, and the Skelly Barrel is going to get there as well.
And maybe didn't need that Zap on the left-hand side with the Skeleton Dragons, but does spend it either way. Skarmy forces out the man, this is just nightmare stuff for Rad.
Yeah, and that one Goblin, with the split of the bars, made it right into the middle of the tower and actually got a hit as well. It's not looking great for him, but we do know that that Balloon Barb's push did do a nice amount of damage. It could take tower, and he needs to be very careful here. Sandbox, you're in a good position, but you still need to secure this match.
Arrows now out of cycle, so you see immediately Rad gets hit with those goblins, and that's going to be a whole lot of damage. Tower down, GG, well played, and we're going to have an all-rookie winners bracket final, folks. Sandbox going on.
Wow. Sandbox did not make any mistakes today, and I'm talking about not only mistakes gameplay-wise, his deck choice was so smart throughout the whole competition, and that's a big part of CRL, right? We've seen it over the years, not only this month, the previous month. Deck choice makes a big factor, and you saw him pretty much be comfortable in every single match today.
Yeah, he was absolutely in control, and comfortable is a great word there, Eric. And comfortability comes, of course, from experience, from good gameplay. But as you were saying, knowing that you feel confident in the matchup, never having that moment where you're going, or rarely having the moment where you go, oh no, I'm facing this. And that was absolutely huge for Sandbox.
Unless your name is Morden, you don't want to be in a position like that, because I feel like Morden just plays better when he has a bad matchup. I don't know how he does it. We all say, oh no, and he's in his head saying, oh yes, this is a YouTube video for me because I'm going to win. It's crazy.
And remember, those of you who are Rad fans at home, he is not leaving. He'll be going down to the lower bracket. We'll see that bracket view in a moment, but here we go. Sandbox, the 2-0 win, and he'll be facing Ta in the winners bracket final here tomorrow on our Clash Royale YouTube page. And of course, if you haven't yet, go ahead, hit subscribe, ring that bell, and make sure you're back here tomorrow for the really, really excellent action. Eric, we have two of the players who maybe weren't expected to be our winners bracket finalists. Who's your player of the day at this point?
For me, it's Sandbox. Ta, definitely the dark horse here, and really, really shocked a lot of us. But I cannot get over how Sandbox played today. It was just perfect. At no point did I feel that he was struggling, that he made mistakes, that he was on the back foot. Every single match from start to end, he was in complete control.
Well, great play by Sandbox, and of course, great working with you, Eric. We'll see you back here again tomorrow for more of our Clash Royale League April monthly final. For now, we're going to go ahead and say bye to Eric and bring back on my brother and friend Andrew Guy here to help us close out the show today. Andrew, a double rookie winners bracket final.
Dude, those games were out of this world. It's crazy when rookies come in and put on the dominance like they did today. They did great deck selection, as Eric was talking about, as you guys were both talking about. They played very calm and composed and comfortable. And honestly, there's so little game tape on these guys. It really seemed to pay off for them down the road.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, you can do some work on Sandbox, but you're playing against Ta and you just hope. All you do is hope. You go, what do I do with this guy? I hope that he's not up to the moment, that I don't get a crazy matchup, and those two things did not end up being true. So we're going to have Ta and Sandbox in the winner's bracket final. We'll be seeing that tomorrow, but before that, Andrew, down on the lower bracket, we have two very high-profile elimination matches.
100%. Schwarzen was playing very, very good today. Dark Angel coming out with those crazy decks. I mean, that second deck was absolutely nuts, and it was so cool to see him win with that. Rad and Morton on the other side, two CRL pros who have had a ton of experience under their belts. Morton in a position that I honestly think he likes to be in. This guy seems to love to play with his back up against the wall, and he's going to try to get out of this elimination bracket.
It's not going to be easy. He has to beat Rad, who is certainly a talented player. Of course, we just saw Rad struggle against Bait, and who's known for Bait? Well, that would be Morton. And then Dark Angel and Schwarzen. You think Schwarzen has the advantage there, but what we've seen, that unpredictability, as you mentioned, Dark Angel could get through, and you talk about that matchup game. That's one of those players who the unpredictability might scare either one of the guys who makes it through from that game number 9.
Yeah, Rich, but the thing is that dominance at the top of this bracket has been insane. The fact that Sandbox has not lost a game going up against Dark Angel and Rad, really, really impressive stuff there. And then you look at Ta. He loses one game to Morton, one game to Schwarzen, and this is just going to be a very, very exciting, and as Eric said, CRL East representing finals here at the top of our bracket.
Well, very curious to see what we have in store for tomorrow. Do we see yet another CWA deck? I don't know what his video is going to be today, but maybe it shows in tomorrow, and he goes 3-0 on the weekend for CRL in this April final. Of course, we're going to see these players again tomorrow. We've seen some crazy decks. Anything specific tomorrow deck-wise or card-wise that you're hoping to see we haven't seen yet?
I don't know about something that we haven't seen. I think we saw a lot of really cool stuff today, and I'd be happy to see a lot of it again. But what I don't want to see is people using decks in game number 1 that give a massive advantage to what's strong in the meta right now. You guys talked about it. We talked about it. It's just really, really important when you consider how dominant Elite Barbarians are, how dominant Mother Witch is, to not play into the hand of your opponent. That's the one thing that I was looking at today, Rich, that really kind of stood out to me.
And you talk about dominating, maybe you watching right now can dominate next time out in Clash Royale League. Go to esportsroyale.com. I think I hit that one right. Follow Clash Royale Esports on all the things. Esports Royale EN on Twitter, and of course, subscribe here on YouTube. We're doing this every month, and we might be doing this with you next time. Top 1,000 ladder, play that Swiss bracket, top 32. You might be the next Ta.
Yeah, that's right. We already gave away $4,000 today, $46,000 more to go tomorrow. And as Rich just said, anyone in the world can be here every single month. You just got to get in that top 1,000, then 32, then 8. Easier said than done.
Yeah, easier said than done, but we've seen it happen here. That's going to be it for today's show. Remember to tune back in tomorrow, same place, same time. We're going to see the culmination of our April final and see if we have a rookie end up being a monthly champion. Very, very possible. Don't forget to follow my brother Andrew Guy. I'm Rich Slayton. And for everyone here at Clash Royale League, manana, and good luck next month.
Bye, guys.